Hey, it's the
Hello.
Hangout.
You can tell it's going to be a good show when I'm already nearly done with my whiskey before we have even started the show.
You got here a little earlier tonight.
It's true. It's
so
true.
It's the thing. It's an interesting day for me
Yeah.
because I have 4 people in the family that have birthdays today.
Wow. And I wonder what the odds of that are.
I don't know. What happened 9 months ago is what I want to know.
10 months ago, actually.
10-ish.
This is 40 weeks. Yeah, right? I was going to say, what's 10 months ago?
I don't know.
Now, like June. So
Yeah,
like
it was
early,
June-ish.
Spring fever hitting.
Yeah, what's going on? Well, and so it's like my dad, my cousin, my son, and my grandbaby all on the same day.
Fun.
And
Lots
you're
of
like,
different generations.
why are you not
too.
hanging out and partying with all those people? My son, he was funny. He turned 17 today, and he was just like, it's the same thing every day. Everyone's like, you're older. How do you feel? And like they say the same thing. So he went out with his friends, and I was like, great. You go hang out with your friends. I was able to hang out with my dad. We watched Project Hail Mary with him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it was cool. Then my cousin, of course, I just sent her a note, and then we're gonna do some stuff with the baby this weekend. So
amazing. So you just gotta. It's fun when you have that. You just spread out a bunch of birthdays all at once and have like a fun 3-day weekend.
I think it's good. So March 26th is a special day because we also have a lot that's going on. We got Nightbot in the chat. We are number 1 fan has a little bit of a problem with Nightbot.
Hey, Nightbot's got to put people in their place.
We'll tune Nightbot, and we got to give them some sort of like, hey, these are our people that, you have to. You can't even curse now because Nightbot might ban you. Who knows?
I gave it a ton of power. So just be careful.
Oh my gosh, Ryan just flexing AI
I was just,
skills.
I was like, hey, we gotta get Nightbot in there.
We haven't had a problem up to this point. So if it starts,
I more wanted it so that it would share, with new people and things like that. Like, hey, come and hang out with us on Discord. Come and watch our YouTube shorts. Things.
Oh,
like
look at my Kazul just got stopped. Like you're already killing us, man. Wait, I'm gonna click to show. Can I click to show his thing? F the chat police.
See, it doesn't. I'm sorry, Michael. That's strike 1. I'm afraid.
Yeah, if this happens, Ryan, you're getting.
It just kicks all of everyone out of the chat.
You were getting slapped on the show multiple times, ring on hand. I was not consulted as the co-host of this, so I have nothing to do with Nightbot. I just want to put that on
it was
there.
like a week ago. It took me like 10 minutes. I was like, I'll figure that out later before the show starts.
They're like, Adam, you don't talk about. I've been muted.
Yeah, we had to mute Adam. It was just couldn't allow it.
Nightbot. Yeah, tell Ryan, give us a heads up. What the hell is Nightbot?
It's a bot that you add to Twitch streams, and I thought it was mostly it will like share things into the chat occasionally. Like it'll say, hey, follow us on Discord. Like we hang out on Discord, and it will just add that so that new people who are coming in and chatting and hanging out with us sort of like know those things, so we don't have to keep talking about it all the time. It can just say, hey, check out our YouTube shorts. But I guess it's also sort of doing some light moderation here as well.
We're going to have to tune it.
Yeah,
we got to test. We appreciate it. And so we already know that we need to greenlight some people so that y'all can say whatever the heck you want.
Everyone was cursing out Adam in the chat, so I had to do something to step in.
Don't even try to do that. Nightbot's like, oh, we love you, Ryan. Thank you for supporting us. It's just surveilling us. This is just the add-on. We talked about privacy and whatnot. Now it's just going to be ruling the Hangout.
Nightbot is learning about all our.
You're like,
greatness.
Nightbot has reduced you to 0 subscribers.
Damn it.
Be happy.
But you're protected. You've been moderated.
Yeah, let's see where we can push it. Don't get banned. If you get banned, I don't even understand how we would unban you from this. So try not.
You're like we have no say over Twitch's banning of people.
Well, at least Nightbot. Is Nightbot a Twitch thing?
Yeah.
All right. So we will be working on Nightbot, but we're also trying to bring you cool things. That's a part of the thing. And so Ryan has done some great upgrades. And if you get into your emojis right now, I would love to see a couple emojis. Don't spam the emojis because apparently Nightbot doesn't like that.
Strike 2 if you do that.
But if you could give, Nightbot's going to get a really bad complex soon here. But we do have some new emojis. Go get those in the chat for us. We'd love to see those. And we do love the engagement. We have some, I don't know if it's a limit on 3 emojis. The theme of the show today is, at least in the podcast, is the death of boredom.
Yep.
And there's a really good insight, and I got to give Ryan some credit because earlier on, it was about in the last 2 weeks, we've been in the YouTube short run. Ryan put a really great video out talking about some of these music students and how, or it was film students.
Yeah.
And how they were having a hard time like watching full films. And I thought that was really interesting, and it got me thinking about, why are people always grabbing their phones? And we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to talk about boredom and how maybe having time to think about thinking is important.
Bring boredom back to the world. That's what I came out with at the end of this.
Absolutely. Well, and I think we'll get into some more philosophical insights, some anecdotal discussion, some facts and data about it. So stick around for the main podcast portion because I think that's I'm really excited about this topic. It doesn't hit on AI as much and like we've had in the past. So I like that we do some non-AI stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not that AI couldn't make this, the death of boredom come even faster, but still not entirely centered around AI,
right?
Which is fun.
And I think that's a variety of our show.
Totally.
We want to be able to get some topics, and what we'd love to hear from our chat is what is the topics that are like keeping you up at night, or the things that you would like us to hear? Because as we start to navigate this, if you're not watching our shorts, you got to go check them out because we're starting to get some people commenting and interacting with them, and it's helping feed what we might be going into next, and we appreciate it. So, Ryan, how have you been, man?
I've been good. It's spring break week, and so the kids have been home, and the in-laws are visiting, and it's been beautiful here in Colorado, and only some fires already starting. But it's been great.
Only some
that are 15 miles from my house. But all good.
I was gonna ask, like, how is that? Is that scary? Is there any kind of like warnings happening? What's going on with this?
I mean, for the most part, it's like not very contained or also not spreading towards people. I don't think that necessarily need to get evacuated. It's sort of in that space in between sort of Colorado Springs and Canyon City and Pueblo, but like as part of Fort Carson. But always scary because it feels like we had a very dry winter. We definitely did.
Terribly dry.
And so the fire season starting early is scary. But hazy in Colorado Springs and all of that. But always something to keep in mind.
Messing with the sinuses. I know, like, lots of throats hurting, a lot of like temperature changes going up and down. Like, it was 94 freaking degrees in March.
Oh man,
how crazy is this? Oof. I know.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to call out. We got some cool people in the chat. We got our stealth mouse.
Of course.
We have our Mike Azul. We got He Higgs in there.
Yep.
We got Laura Azarpam. It is super good, top level people chatting, and of course we got freaking Nightbot.
Nightbot joining me. Everybody get in on this Nightbot. I'm pro Nightbot, man.
I am anti Nightbot. Down with Nightbot. No, this is good. No, thanks for joining us tonight. We are appreciative of you supporting us as we go forward. We have a pretty decent spread on news tonight.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot that's been happening.
Hot news happening.
Yeah, a lot of hot news happening. One of the top stories that we'll get into in a little bit talks about some interesting things around our jobs that I'd like to talk about. One thing I want to call out is that Mike Azul, I love you, man. I got to physically see you. I don't even know if we locked eyes, but I didn't shake your hand. I didn't have a word with you, but I thought about you when I saw you at that meeting, and I really just wanted to say I appreciate you, and we should hang out more. I did even bring my running gear. I thought we could have run, but I didn't have a chance to hang out with you, so it is a thing. Hey, and Nightbot is telling us to go check out our shorts. All right?
That's what it was supposed to be doing. That's what it was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it is creepy, Mike. It is creepy, I know. But this is like, you talk to me in the chat, and sometimes I just want to say hey in person, but it is a thing. It is what it is.
Next time.
Do we have Let's go. Questions for Humans did not arrive in
yeah.
your...
In my bag. It got taken out because lots of reasons. But we still have our own questions for humans that we are going to go. Do you have one ready to go that you do? Well, why don't you go first then? Question for human.
What would your younger self roll their eyes at for you to now?
Ooh.
This is a good one. In chat, we want to hear this from you. So if you have a hot take on what I'll put it in the chat as long as Nightbot doesn't take me down. All right, we didn't. Nightbot was at least kind to the co-host here. I think this is interesting because I almost look at my children and I see like the things that they would say and roll their eyes at with me.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because I could even see moments where I'm like, oh my God, I would be rolling my eyes at myself in those moments. And so there's a couple things.
Yeah.
My father, which even up to this day he would give me articles from the newspaper or from like
clipped
magazines clipped out and be like, you should read this. You really need to do that. And I would be like, oh my God, there's like the internet and there's all these other things. I would always read it though, because I respected my dad. Nice. And I was like, even though I would roll my eyes, I would still like engage because he took the effort to do that. But I also feel like my younger self would roll at me because I send the kids like YouTube shorts videos and these other things, and they're more like, here's how to make a good turn when you're driving,
right?
And they're like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I definitely send my kids. I mean, your dad was trying to do the same thing. He just didn't have the technology chops to do it. So he had to cut out an article out of the Wall Street Journal and give it to you, right?
And sometimes I get I took a picture of an article on a computer sent to me, try to read the pixelated things.
You know, it's like I've started to love those types of things more and more from older people in my life, right? It feels like nostalgic, you know, when you don't know that and you're sending things in weird ways, and I don't know, like there's a heart to that.
Well, I mean, even like the idea that 10:30 to 11 is actually the time I go to bed, and then the time that I'm actually getting ready for the night and going out, my old eye was like, what? That's the start of the night.
I would say one thing is like at least to the old, like I feel like when we grew up, it was still a little bit like not as okay to be so, you know, men open with their feelings and being sort of, you know, I don't know, sharing a lot. I feel like I didn't do all of that much, you know, back then, or that kind of stuff. And so I would say if I like saw myself now and trying to like bring that up in my children and really like leaning into that and trying, I feel like, you know, younger me would be rolling my eyes a little bit at how older Ryan is, you know, trying to share more and be vulnerable with people and that kind of stuff for sure.
I love that. And do you feel like you were purposely not doing that in the past?
I feel like it was one that's just like not sort of in my very nature to do. So it's hard for, you know, it took effort for me to feel like, yes, I can be vulnerable with people. Right. And yes, I can do those types of things, but like also to just sort of times change. Right. And now, you know, that's a part of being an adult and being things. Do you want to maybe
I got to tell you right now, if you see us looking at our phones, there is a core moment happening in the show. And let me tell you what that is. It's a precursor to what we're going to talk about tonight. Ryan Higley changed his Wi-Fi password at the house. I just got a text from his wife that said, hey, Ryan, have Ryan send us the new Wi-Fi. We are old and bored. Bored. How freaking like this is amazing. Ryan's gonna go and get somebody set up on this one. It's really good.
Well, let me tell you the question that I'll ask you, and then you can answer it, right?
Okay,
for a minute while I text my wife the new Wi-Fi password.
Wait, before we do that, I almost knocked over a thing. Let's talk about a couple things. We had some things in the chat, like people that you hang out with old people all day and like it. That was one of them from the chat. I don't know. You worked at a library? Was that something that we had a discussion about?
Yeah. No. That younger you would roll your eyes at a person that said, I work at a library.
Fair. Ryan is getting pummeled today.
I'm
Wi-Fi password.
I'm the heel. I'm the heel of this this show today.
I know what his Wi-Fi password is. It's Nightbot forever. Love, heart, heart, heart.
Nightbot love.
Oh my God. No, those are great ones. Is that, I mean, people are probably like, what the hell is the library? Why would you even spend some time there? All right. Lay it on me here.
Okay. Let me get back to this. Okay. Do you think, so this is the one that I just came up with, being bored and walking, around, and wrote this down.
I love it.
Do you think that we have a true self that, say, comes out in stressful or extreme circumstances? Or do you think that we are a constantly evolving personality, basically? Is your self constantly evolving, or do you have a true self that is you?
Man, you're asking me a very interesting question here because I am a facilitator of a temperament program.
Okay.
Based off of certain amounts of research that mentions how temperament, if you were to be locked into a room, padded and whatnot, you would have a certain temperament that would stay with you through your entire life. So that there is a true version of yourself that might be more logical or more like entrepreneurial and risk taker, or more sentimental and connective, or more analytical and kind of thinking about things. And so I think the answer,
or emotional,
emotional.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the answer, I think there is like a core that we have, but then we're influenced, and the behaviors and the work environments and the friends that we put us around us that can kind of like lean us one way or another. But if we were able to get away from that there is a core in there, and there's an authentic self that's maybe like locked away in our core. I believe so.
So you're saying, like, you're locked in a room for, obviously this is hypothetical. You haven't had a lot of outside stimulus that you would have that core. But we do have lots of outside stimulus, right? We have, all the people that are around us and the society that we live in and everything like that. But you think that that's sort of an outside, you're like, you're changing your shell a little bit for the times, but that you have a inner shell that is, an emotional coward or something like that in the inside. And no matter how brave you act on the outside, that your inner core is a anxiety ridden something, right? Like good or bad, I'm naming bad things, but could be.
Mike Azul, he and I are like right here right now. Because I think the analogy that we'd use from some leadership programs we've gone through is it's like, what do you bring to the stage? What mask are you wearing in those moments? And you're gonna have a bunch of different ways that you put things on you, and you can then be outside of those masks, but there's an authentic self you bring to the table. Like, I truly give a crap about humans and other people and want to connect with people. That has like always been a part of who I've been. And the way that I do that, and the mask that I bring out in those moments, sometimes it's not necessarily showing off that core.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you don't want to be showing off your core all the time, right?
Want to see my core, Ryan?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe this is getting a little too
right?
TMI for it. No, I mean that's a good. I think when I was thinking about it on my walk, I was hedging both ways. I was kind of like, I do feel like you have something baked in from when you are a child. Maybe, I don't know when it forms necessarily, if it's at birth or if it's at maturity or something like that, if that's where it sort of bakes it in. But I do feel like we have some of that of it. But I do feel like the outside stimulus can really change what that type of, for good or for bad, right? Like, you can have a core that is sort of, say, ambivalent towards things and aloof, say, but then outside stimulus is telling you, like, no, it's better to not be like that, to show, compassion and do these types of things. And so then you're like, okay, well, I want to do that because it's good for society. I feel good when I do it. There's like multiple things that could stack up on there that sort of like pushes that so far down that you're like, I don't necessarily want that part to show.
I love this discussion, and I almost feel like this could be its own podcast.
Could, right?
But here's maybe my final thought on this, and I'm gonna like tap into some of the chat's pieces. Is that we're constantly, supposed to be growing, and so maybe your core is something that's there, but you see it through different lenses as you grow in your life. And so there's some piece of it, but you look at it differently as you get to different phases, and you're like, oh, okay, I understand why I maybe think that way. And this is the lens I now see it as. And so that growth and that understanding is like unlocking who you truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times we struggle with the bad sides of our core, and we try to push forward the good sides of it.
We got some like data in the chat here. A field called internal family systems that says we have different parts that protect our true self.
Interesting.
And I think, I would be really curious to understand what we're protecting in certain pieces. And I think that we're, there is only a certain power, like you only really will ever know yourself truly because you kind of experience your life, and you can share it out of your little flappy meat lips and like your actions and the ways that you have a discussion. But at the end of the day, like you've experienced world in a unique way.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Nice. Oh, good questions for humans today. We don't need any of those damn cards out of our own brains.
Did you send the Wi-Fi password? That's the question. All
Yep.
right. Because I got another question. It says, great. Won't be a bro. Poor 80-year-old parents.
Oh,
I got
that's true.
We got you.
Even 80-year-old parents need doom scrolling.
It's
my
clearly
house.
a thing. All right. So we got something new here, Ryan. Are you ready for this? Are
Ready.
you ready? Who's ready for it? Here we go.
From the Hangout, it's the news with Adam and Ryan.
Ah. Nice.
That was nice.
All right, news.
All right, we got a couple of stories tonight, so I'm going to start with the first one. This one's in regard to who knows who Travis Kalanick is? Anybody from the chat? Maybe Mike Azul would know this.
I didn't know who this was
All right,
before I read this.
this one's gonna rage. This is a rager for y'all because we're talking about the plan for gainfully employed robots. So if you're not familiar with Travis, he's this tech entrepreneur. And he is best known for his co-founding of something, yes, and former CEO of Uber.
Yep.
So he is, if you don't know what Uber is, oh my gosh. But anyhow, he's pushed that in there. There's been some challenges within companies that he's run, culture, leadership,
Sure.
the ways that they kind of engage in certain things. And so, all right, he's taken another stance, and he's talking about what he thinks the future is going to look like. So this particular one, I feel like that was a very rage-baity title that they put out there. I can't remember what news article I had read this under. But they're basically saying that they're trying to rebrand one of their newer companies to start to leverage robots a lot more that physically perform work, like preparing food, moving goods, operating industrial environments.
Sure. Mining, I think, was one of them.
And so there's a direct push for automation of replacing human labor. Like the things that we thought AI and things wouldn't touch, the robots are going to come for anyway.
Yeah, it was, this is somebody trying to push their robotics thing and say something kind of, because the quote is gainfully employed robots like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is from him. And I think what it was sort of trying to almost say is like, oh, these robots would make money for the company that he is running, right? So it's like you would rent out the labor of a robot, and that would be an employee that you had, and you would say, great, I'm paying this employee this amount of money, and that would go towards the robot company, that this Travis owns. And that's how you would so you would have employed robots, same as you would have like a truck that U-Haul rents out to you. And which is struck some people as a little weird, because it really just felt like you'd be like, oh, okay, well, we're replacing a bunch of people with robots who are then owned by a very small conglomerate of people, which nobody likes that.
I have so many hot takes on this one that this again could be another topic, but I've had a recent conversation about some of this, and this maybe gets too political, so I'm going to just skitter across some of the surface of it. And I think that when we talk about the ultra wealthy, they don't want humans to have jobs. They want basically people to die, and because they're inefficient, they're not reliable.
Sure.
And if we had some sort of robot workforce that can get things reliable for everything, and it like reduces the population so that the super rich can maintain whatever kind of power that they have. I feel like that's a potential or conspiracy theory, however you want to look at this.
I mean,
where that's
labor is a bottleneck, right? And you have to employ emotional beings into your company that have the possibility of creating unions or protesting against the products that you want them to make, or all sorts of different things. They demand wages that, you know, keep up with inflation, all of those types of stuff that you don't want to have to deal with as a CEO. And you're like, wouldn't it be sweeter if I just had a robot go in and do that, and they just dutifully did their work 24 hours a day and never, you know, asked for raises or thought of, you know, maybe you should hire diverse amounts of people and things like that. You know, it's like, you don't want to care about that robot workforce. And that's what I feel like they're trying to march us toward, and under the same guise as AI of saying like, well, you know, it'll be better for everyone because we can all do creative tasks then.
Late stage capitalism,
Yeah,
Ryan. So my hot take is it's yes, very dystopian and really like pushing this divide at this point, but it's starting to get cannibalistic at this stage because you can't really draw from the workforce anymore. It's like, oh, who has the best robot? Who's going to do the most production? And I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate this timeline.
Workforce commoditized.
And we talked about it, and we saw it with the Anthropic, which was one of the projections going to the future, was saying, hey, it's going to take those knowledge jobs. And why I thought this was an interesting thing is that this one is saying, hey, guess what? Robots are going to come and they're going to take the labor jobs at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. They're not safe from it. They're just later down the road because the real world is a messier place to be than in the online world.
It's even worse than the Terminator timeline. I mean, I feel like
it's lamer for sure.
It's definitely
like,
lamer.
At least take me out with some like amazing skeletal, shiny, you know, laser shooting robots.
I know. It's like we think they would just take us over for some reason. It's just because rich billionaires want their power. I mean, isn't that the typical story though?
Yeah, that's true.
That
That's the story as old as time.
All right, next one is, does Canada need nationalized public AI? I loved this conversation, and I think we could go down the rabbit hole on this one a little bit. There was an opinion piece that came out recently about talking about Canada, and this was interesting to me for a couple different reasons. And what they were basically saying is that we got these tech companies that are coming out with these major models, these AI models, and we're saying this is the game changer. This is how the future is going to roll. Kind of think about what happened when the internet came out. There's debate even to this moment that say that isn't something that should be necessarily even purchased. It's a part of like life now. We should be able to give that out. And so the conversation is already starting and saying like, should AI be treated like utilities, like water, like electricity? And designed for the public benefit, not like for profit, like we're seeing. Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate the conversation coming from Canada. And so it's pushing back on this, the reliance of course, even U.S. tech companies right now.
Yeah.
And it's saying, should we have more controls over some of the decision, the biases, the access? Like, how does the data get used? Now, a government having that?
Yeah, that's right. That's where I come in and go, I don't, you know. It's great when it's the government you like has control of it, and it's awful when the government you don't like has control of it, which is a little scarier. At least with companies, you know what they're going for, right? They're going for the almighty dollar, not necessarily the power, I guess. I mean, maybe they are, but at least I don't know. I imagine companies are not trying to, you know, enslave or stay in power for forever. They're trying to influence a lot and they're trying to make a lot of money, but it's hard to do that. These three, we missed the three stories at the front.
Oh, we did miss some.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't know how to bring that up to you without it being awkward.
Yeah, you have that. So I think one of the things too with this particular one was that, you know, the AI systems, if it is under government kind of control, that does look at the overreach components. But if we start to look at more of the independent side, maybe there's some legislation and other ways that data is not that way. And then even democratizing some of the models so that you can run it locally or in different kind of ways might be something to think about. So
I mean, we put a bunch of money and ideas and things like that and allow the government to take care of it, right? Like the water that we drink, right? The electricity for the most part that we get, like, is a lot of times a government entity, and that is a huge part of your life and could easily be turned off in a second, right? If say you didn't, the government that you didn't like would turn it off, but that doesn't happen, And so I think it's sort of the same thing that they're thinking here, that you would lump it in with like electricity and water and, sewage and electricity and internet and AI, right? Like those are all things that we use all the time, and so we need to be able to rely on it.
Sewage and AI, we need it. We need both. Ryan said it here.
So true. Quote me on that.
I appreciate the conversation. Question for the chat, if you're out there: would you rather have it be big tech companies, or the government?
That would be a good one. I would love to hear, because gosh, it is a really It's really two sides of a bad coin.
There's got to be a middle ground, but still,
it's your own AI that you keep privately in your own home. Adam, have I talked about that before?
Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about this one. All right, Ryan, some big news. I skipped some articles up front, so we're going to hit into this one. Ryan, tell us what the big news with ChatGPT or OpenAI is.
Yeah, so, I think I called this on our end of the year podcast when I said AI video is slowly going downhill, and in that realm, Sora has been shut down by OpenAI. Sora's their AI video generation platform that they, had a beta in, and they wanted people to, create their own social media videos, and you could, add in celebrities to them. Disney paid them $1 billion to have their likenesses of characters in there so that it could be done. And how much are we? Not even half a year after that has been in, they're cutting it out. And there wasn't that many things that they, there wasn't like here's the reason that we cut it was a very, quiet on that. I think it was, maybe they said some things about making sure that we're putting our time towards things that really benefit the company, which makes me think it wasn't making any money. Nobody cared about it. It was a huge pain in the ass with a bunch of the lawsuits that probably people were getting, and nobody liked it to begin with because it was a bunch of AI slop on social media, which nobody likes. And so they went, just cut the cord. Who cares?
That's only one thing though. Sora, and I'm gonna be honest, like I thought it was pretty trash as to what it would put out. It was fairly bad, but there's some other big ones out there that are doing some amazing things.
Yeah, Runway I think is a big one
for sure.
There's a couple of Chinese ones that are pretty good.
Do you see it as like a red flag that it was like too good?
No.
Or was it just like, it almost feels like they're hedging their bets and they're like, okay, Sora didn't land the way we wanted to, because it was like a social network.
Yeah, exactly. And I think right now they're desperate to make money on things. And if they're saying, this didn't hit, we didn't do it the right way, we released it in a weird way that everybody hated and nobody likes it now, let's not just keep throwing, good money after bad and keeping this up. They'll just roll whatever the video generation is, I think, into ChatGPT anyway, just like they did with DALL-E and ChatGPT, right? They just rolled that into it. Now there's no DALL-E. It's just part of ChatGPT. And so they'll just quietly do it in the background and, only allow people to do a few generations a day, if I had to guess.
Cat's out of the bag. Video is already out with being able to do this. And so I think there's something fishy going on with Sora right now. That's my hot take. Because it didn't make money like you said. It was kind of lame as a social network, and gosh, the feeds have been so tainted with AI.
I feel like that's it. It was all those bad things, and so they shut it down. Like that, you don't think it's as straightforward as that?
No, because they want to be out there and they want to do something. So I'll love to see.
Maybe it'll roll into something else, right? Maybe they have other ideas.
You got to take this next story because this one's interesting.
Yeah, so 2 big lawsuits over this last week. I mean, even just in the last couple days. 2 against Meta. Meta took a hard hit in court this week. Also YouTube as part of it. So they had this one. It was in New Mexico. And the New Mexico one was the state of New Mexico basically said, hey, you not only... so this was specifically on Meta because I think everybody else had sort of cashed out or paid the government, like to not take this to court. But Meta didn't, and they were like, hey, you're not telling people how these platforms work and how they get that to you. You're not policing them enough so that there's a bunch of children's sexual things going on there. You're not like policing it nearly as enough. And this is one of the big lawsuits that people were watching to be like, man, if this hits Meta, like, it's just another thing to set precedent for other people to sue Meta, which is a good thing, because like I personally feel like they were very negligent in how much they were disguising how much it was hurting, certain like ages of people, all of that kind of stuff. Especially if you talk about Instagram, like, tons of documents have come out talking about how they did a bad job of that. So anyway, they lost that $375 million thing. They will, of course, take this back into court. And so we'll see if this actually changes how Meta thinks about things. But the more that you kind of do this kind of stuff, the more that these civil, and lawsuits like this pile up. I mean, I'm hoping that it leads to changes, from these big social media techs, but we'll see.
And one of the reasons or insights as to why this might be something that's important, and the word bellwether that I had to go look up a little bit and understand, but it was the idea that you kind of have like a test case that goes in to say, like, is this going to hold weight as it goes forward and other cases come in? And with certain things like passing through, and there being that it's like chump change for some of these bigger companies, like 370 million, whatever. That's like, we already have that written off.
Totally.
But with the idea that more could be coming, Ryan's, utopia of limits on social media
Right.
is coming true. He called it. And so I think that's one of the things that we're going to see, is that maybe some of these addictive features, and like these stories really like line up with some of the insights that we're going to get into shortly here, is that those addictive, those engaging features, those things that are creating some of the challenges and are really out there are starting to come to light. And it's like getting caught up with some of the legal takes out there.
Did you want to talk about the California one?
Hell yeah. Talk about it.
So the California one is also came up, and so it was Meta and YouTube at this point. And this one's a little bit different, like when you're talking about, yes, you were allowing sexualization of children and things like that. Like that is, in some ways more straightforward than what this one is. This was a 20-something female, they don't tell her name, like brought these lawsuits and basically said, like, you are making things super addictive. I personally was more depressed because of it. I had more anxiety. I had suicidal thoughts and things like that because of missing out on things, and that you were building this in a specific way to make it addictive. And you weren't telling anyone that, like you were just making it out as it was just this normal product. And I feel like, again, this is a woman. She won $6 million, right? Which is like you said, probably the lunch budget of a CEO conference for some of these tech billionaires. But like, what it does is it sets more precedent. There are hundreds of people that could file the same sort of thing that has even crazier stories than this person. And so what it does, I think, is it says, hey, let's set a bunch of precedent, right? So that when the next person comes up, and the next person and the next person, and the next person, all those different $6 million payouts, they start to equal up into you saying, hey, maybe we should, maybe try not to make such a shitty addictive algorithm.
It's something that we're going to have to consider going forward. And I'm going to love to keep my finger on the pulse of this one, because I would really love to see if this like makes some changes, because it seems like we hear this like, oh yeah, they just got screwed over. And then some other new thing comes up, like, it's not our fault. That's not something we should do. But I think where they got them right now is that the disclosure on how addictive things are, and I would love to start to see some things that make things a little less addictive and engaging.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big takeaway, at least for me, from this, is that there's actually now legislation, or at least like legal kind of arguments around, hey, it's probably not that greatest thing to get people addicted to the levels they are.
Right. Bad for society to do that, to just allow a company to be that addictive.
I mean, it's
of course we didn't, we didn't stop sports gambling, and we didn't stop casinos, and we didn't stop drinking, and we didn't stop, a ton cigarette companies and all of that. So we don't necessarily have a amazing track record on reeling in businesses like that.
Yeah. Well, we got some chats talking about like not even getting into families who's like committed suicides or pressure and from bullying and other things like that. There's just a lot of negative things that are happening in these spaces that are also just being like conflated and pushed out a lot more because of social media or even these little like tools to be able to do that.
Right.
Man, why does everything feel so dystopian? Like we're in like this weird future where it almost feels there's so much out there. How do you even keep your thumb on where we should be going? So somebody's working on that, but there's a gazillion other things that are happening. And I'll tell you about one of those other ones right now.
Yeah.
Is that there was new study that came out that talked about specifically around the concerns around chatbots. And we've talked about this a couple times. Fueling delusional thinking. We talked about psychosis and whatnot.
AI psychosis.
This particular article was talking about how chatbots and all these other different AI-enabled tools that are out in the system here are really starting to not be like even programmed in such a way that we know how to fix some of the challenges that they're doing. They're being sycophantic,
right?
And like they're like mirroring people that might have not the best beliefs or like insights that push them towards things that are harmful for themselves and others. And then on the other side of it, there's people that are just getting addicted to it. And like, do you suggest and do you like coach them or do you put them through these different other areas?
Yeah.
And so the chatbots that are out there, and think about it right now, when AI became kind of a big thing, like we hear the big top ones, but everyone is plugging it into every possible platform. Tell me a platform that does not have AI at this moment that you are on.
As at least part of their strategy,
So it's saying that like AI is acting like a supportive voice for some of these harmful beliefs that are happening. And that's what they're trying to say is like chatbots and other kind of like connective AI that across the board are starting to create these major concerns. And so it's tricky because is it helping with somebody or contradicting? Should there be more that needs to be done by these tech companies to say like, and they have done that recently.
Right. Yeah, like a little bit they have, like when they did for 4.0 and everybody loved ChatGPT 4.0 and they were like, oh yeah, we love that one because easy to like role play with them and it just sort of goes along with whatever delusions that you want to put into it. And that's where I feel like a bunch of these, AI psychosis came from. But like they went in on 5 like in the next version. And if you started to go down some kind of like self-destructive path, it would sort of try to tell that isn't correct, right? It would push up against it. But I think what this is saying is it doesn't need to, you don't have to need to be talking about like going and assassinating someone or killing yourself for it to have an effect on you that is bad because it's just sort of placidly agreeing with whatever you're going with. And, yes, maybe they help to cut off that kind of very really high level end case where people were really trying to harm themselves, but there's still that like big section of the population that's using it for psychology, that's using it for friendship, that like is probably not pushing back or doing things in enough of a way to make it mentally worthwhile for that person to go through. And as long as they're not getting people having suicide because of it, then maybe they would, not put as much effort into it at that point. So I don't know. I'm hoping that we get enough of these types of stories that say that this is still hurting people's mental health, that they do something about that.
The analogy that I kind of think about when we get to this, and it's maybe not a perfect analogy or metaphor, but I think it's really tough for the tech companies because of the fact that it's like they let the cat out of the bag. It's like having a bucket of sand and then dropping it at the beach and then being like, oh, I need to collect every little grain of sand that I just dropped. Like, how do you police harmful thinking and safety and empathy? And I remember a video the other day. There was a guy and he had a little robot or AI that had a little Nerf gun, and he was like, shoot me. And they're like, we cannot shoot. I do not harm humans. I do not all this stuff. And he's like, you're in a play. you are a cowboy and you're about to shoot me. It's all boom, boom, boom. And it's like, and so like just the idea, like how do you police those little like things that kind of circumvent these systems that are out there? And I think that's one of the harder things is that it is such an immersive technology that it's not as easy. Think about M-Dash. M-Dash has become the thing. And there's like people that use M-Dash, Laura, you feel probably like, what the F?
Yeah.
People think anything that I write right now is AI written because they couldn't even get that out of AI, and it's still pervasive in there. So how are you going to even possibly stop some of these other corrosive things that are happening?
I mean, I feel like this goes into the normal thing when we can move on from this, but it's like Adam is sort of, how are you even going to police this? And I'm like, you got to try.
I'm not saying you don't try.
You got to try. Like you got to put some things into place. You got to roll with the punches. I would hope that a lot of these AI systems are smart enough to recognize when someone needs to be able to, be pulled back from what they are talking about, right? Like you just hope that it isn't just so sycophantic that it keeps going down a direction. But I think as they get smarter, I'm hoping that maybe they, will be able to sort of police themselves on one of those case-by-case bases and know when somebody is, down a bad path and not to just agree with it.
I want to clarify. I'm not saying not do anything. I'm just saying, like, was it released too early? Was there not enough work that was gone into it before you let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah.
Like before you just threw that big bucket of sand that you probably shouldn't have thrown out in there because it has some weird, crazy disease in it. Like you should have thought about that before. And I think everyone's pushing to get out there to be first and then iterating. We're the freaking beta testers on the thing.
We're the guinea pigs.
And so now that we're here, I absolutely agree. We got to do what we can do, but sometimes it feels like fighting the ocean. Like it's really like a tough spot. So I'll give I'm hoping some good punches are going to land on that sucker, but it's going to keep hitting us as we go forward.
Tough. Okay, so next news story. This one was great. NVIDIA put out this thing, DLSS5, which was this video game filter. And what this is it was basically a thing that they said, hey, instead of going in and trying to make your video game super realistic with all the lighting and the models that you have and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's actually kind of a crazy technology what they came up with. It's sort of adding an AI filter over the top of every frame of your video game to sort of say like, hey, make this look a little better, even out some of the lighting, maybe make the face look a little bit more realistic, maybe make the background a little bit more realistic. And in some ways, if you just look at it, I mean, we'll look at a couple of these, on the screen. And I mean, I would say, I don't know if I would necessarily ever like say that the AI assisted ones, like they do look better. Like I will say that right up front. Like I think they do look nicer than the original ones. Now the problem with it is, we should look at them before we talk about the backlash that came against.
Why don't you do that? We're having trouble loading this one for whatever reason. So NVIDIA doesn't want to load. So hopefully you're still seeing the stream, which I believe we are. But listen to that beautiful music that you're not seeing right yet. I'm pretty sure I can mute that. Okay, we'll get to this one. We'll get to this shortly, but give a little. I want to give a little insight around what the hell is this? Like, have you been able? Yeah.
So basically, I mean, it's sort of a layer that you add on top of your thing, and it does what a lot of AI, video image generation does, right? It takes each frame and it looks at it and it zhuzhes it up somewhat in some very particular way, right? Of adding realism or adding lighting and things like that to it. And yet, in some ways that looks cool, but I feel like a lot of the backlash was that it takes away all of the artistic integrity of the artists and teams that put together that original one, right? And in some ways, NVIDIA is saying, who cares about the artists and the thing? You would do this on your side. So you would take a normal video game that artists prepared and did things, you would take it over to your computer and you would just say, hey, video card, add this AI filter to it and make everything look better without even consulting the artists who did it originally and their intent. And I think what everyone thought was, yeah, these look better, but they also just sort of all look very samey then, right? Like if you're putting a filter over the top of it, you lose a little bit of that, like, oh, this particular style of these artists looks like this, and this particular style of these artists looks a different way. And instead of having that, you're just having like the whatever the AI thinks that, your little protagonist's face should look like.
I mean, we're seeing it right now. They're doing it on some Resident Evil. That website you would link me to, by the way, like nearly crashed my computer.
Oh,
so
man.
FYI.
Oh, no.
It looks super realistic, but they're trying to probably pull the best things that they could possibly get off of this.
Yeah, and like I said, there's no one is saying that, or I don't think it is anyone saying that like that does look better than what is on the screen there. But it's also kind of, I mean, these are all different games. Hogwarts is definitely different than Starfield, which is definitely different from,
I wanna, like,
Resident Evil. But they all sort of end up kind of looking like realistically sort of similar. And then you're like, well.
So let's look at this one. I'm going to stop. So like, it's almost like constraints as to what that looks like. And it's like, yeah, it definitely looks different.
Yeah, I mean, it looks different. And I would say that looks better than the original, right? But
Realistic.
it takes away, it looks more, that's a better way to put it. It looks more realistic in that sense. But is that necessarily what I don't know if that's necessarily what we're going for all the time.
I don't know. There's some, like you said, intent.
Yeah. And so anyway, so people, and this is great. This is a thing where the internet as a collective came forward and went, we don't like that, and I feel like that was the main thrust of it. And so NVIDIA sort of walked it back a little and said artists would get to choose who could put that on their game or not. And then they also said, well, we might have, this was an early demo of it. And people went, you're the one who put out the press release. You can't then say that it was early, it was a beta.
One of the things I would say, I love some of the chats around this, is that like there's bias that can get into this too.
Right.
If you're just doing that and it ends up being like, well, we're going to train based off of all this other data, and here's somebody that has an ethnic background, but when we push it through, it's going to make them look a little, a different ethnicity than they actually are.
Or maybe that's my thing where I go like, oh, I want only, sexy white people in all of my games, and it just switches them all out for that, right?
You heard it here, Ryan. That was your first thought, so we know where you're headed. But
I got lots of quotes coming out of lots of one-liners.
But I think the other aspect of this that I have concerns around, and maybe some other thoughts about, is we're starting to get into a constraint point with the technology that we can purchase and bring to our homes. And so if you think about like what's happening right now in the market for the video cards and RAM, is that it's astronomical. It's been bought out by AI companies. And so if you start to think about even game development going forward, we're constrained because they can't use more compute to get those like realistic things. And so I think NVIDIA is like, we just took all the RAM and all this stuff, but look we're giving you this thing that makes it better and it'll be cheaper to do.
Yep.
And I hate that, because then it's like it's not like actually going towards like what you had mentioned before, artistic intent, the way that you want to build this and the way that it should be shown. And what if you made a super cartoony game, or you made some other kind of game and you had this come over and now everyone looks like realistic weird SpongeBob characters like in the real version of it. I don't know. I don't like it.
It's almost like you could build a game with no, like, just blank people acting out some kind of storyline, and then everyone would just add whatever graphics and theme that you wanted onto it. Like I see that coming in the future when I saw this.
That's even worse take that I didn't even think about, like just the low effort.
Yeah.
And then
but then it allows you to be like, well, I'll put whatever I want on it. I like orcs, and princesses, or I like space operas or something onto it. And they're going to say that it's, it's choice, right? You could just make a custom whatever that you want, but really it's just sort of dumbing it down and also putting me into more and more into my own silo.
Man.
Hey, Adam just has like a long, deep sigh at the end of every one of these news stories.
It's been bad tonight. I mean, just seeing how this is changing our lives in a way. And I don't know. It's like I punch in the ocean, man. That's all I'm feeling. I just imagine myself trying. It's sucking me out into it. It's nuts. All right, well, let me hit this one, and we're going to get close to our topic, the death of boredom, coming up soon here.
Coming up soon.
This particular one hits home for me. So a writing professor's new task in the age of AI is teaching students when to struggle. And I like this one because I've been saying this for a damn while. I got to say, this is something that has been, being in education for nearly 20 years at this point. This is always where we've been as like in higher education, is that we always seem like we're right behind the curve. There's something else that comes out that's really great. And then you end up having people saying like, that's not cool. Like, I want to do it my old way. And I want to give you an anecdote. I remember when I was in like the first parts of my job in higher education, this is like year one. So think about 20 years ish back. And what ended up happening is I saw that YouTube had this potential for like being able to deliver content and videos. And I was very much at the time saying, you got to go and put your content on video that you shouldn't be lecturing in class.
Right.
You should put the content on video so that then the students can watch the video
as pre-work.
And that this student that gets it and he can do it in 30 minutes, great. And this one that takes 2 hours to do it, great. They do that, but then they all show up at the same time, and then you can have discourse and discussion about it. Mm-hmm. And I remember very adamantly trying to have an argument with a professor on this, which, of course, this guy had tenure and all these other things, and it was just like poo-pooing. And he was like, you're telling me that some student's going to just pull out their little device, and I think he even said like a laptop or something, or smartphones were kind of coming out at the time, and they're going to watch a little lecture on what I'm doing. And I was like, yeah, I really think that's going to happen. And sure damn enough, like it's and he ended up, retiring a couple years later. But I was just like, that's, I think, where we're at right now, is that AI is doing something, everyone's pushing back on it, and we're not thinking about what should we be doing now so that in the next year to 10 years that we put ourselves in a better place.
Yeah, this was an interesting story, because I feel like it talks about putting friction into our lives, right? And we have talked about that on multiple occasions, and also that, at some point, AI is just going to have a bunch of answers for things. And the answer is not going to be the thing that is valuable to you in your life and your job and all of that. It's the path that you took to get to that answer is the thing that changes you in a way to be smarter and more critical thinking about lots of things in your life. And so I thought this was really interesting, because I had an aha moment looking at this, where I was like, this is what education should be, right? Education should not be teaching you about the thing that you are going to be doing in the future of the knowledge has been democratized at this point. And so what you need to do is be like, hey, do things that you already have the answer to, but do it the hard way so that you can learn and better yourself at it, not because you're going to get to some novel answer in the end. Like, we still teach children how to add and subtract and divide and multiply that a calculator could easily do, but you're like, yeah, you still got to teach them all of that stuff so that they become a well-rounded human being. And I was like, man, that's what education should be thinking about. It's like, how do we make you a well-rounded human being when the knowledge is already going to be out there? And I feel like that's a huge change. And like you said, a lot of times education will spend 3 years arguing just even that the idea has merit, and then another 3 years deciding how they're going to implement that into their types of curriculum and finding the best ways to do it. And then, now they're already massively behind the 8 ball.
You're 100% where it's at. There's all this bureaucracy and there's this like posturing, and knowledge work used to be something that you can kind of hold on to, and it was very specific. And now we've basically flipped the script, and we've been able to say knowledge is not as inaccessible as it used to be. It's not something that you have to memorize things and understand. And so, inside the chat, we say, the Mikey UC had mentioned, we did talk about video lectures. People should be forced to like do things outside and bring in the context. Like, the value of education is you're sitting there with others, right, and you're actually starting to synthesize what you learned, not just like absorb that information. It's like bring it out. And we've already identified that there's different learning types, and then and the amount of time that you need to spend on something. And so what sucks is if you're really great at something and somebody's not, you're teaching to the lowest common denominator in the class if you're trying to bring the lowest person along. And there's different ways that you can engage people, and there's different ways you could build your curriculum. And I would say from this article, the thing that I really appreciate is it's about the process.
Yeah.
It's about teaching people to be adaptable, to learn, to like think through things more. It's not about getting to the answer anymore. The answer can surface, and I want to be critical on it. I want to take there's some struggles so that it actually becomes an answer that's like has some depth to it, and it actually is been tested as the right kind of answer. I don't believe AI gives you the answer unless you have the critical thinking and ability to move through it and the question and push towards
But even if it gives you the answer, just having the answer and being like, okay, I'm going to read the answer for 20 minutes here and have the answer. Like that, there's Ezra Klein quote that I did a YouTube short on, and he was basically saying like, I have producers. When I do an interview, I could just say, go read all the books, go do all the stuff, and then come back to me and give me a report, and I'll go into the interview like that. And it doesn't work that way, right? Like, he has to do the reading. He has to talk with everyone, and they have to throw ideas. It's like there's a process that your brain just needs to do to be able to absorb that kind of stuff and have opinions on it and nuanced takes and everything that just sort of having the answer and reading that over doesn't get you.
Education's got to change.
It's got to change. When is it going to change, Adam? God damn, get in there and change that shit.
Well, here's the thing. You want to hear my hot take on this?
Yes.
Is that I really truly believe the education that we know is at the worst disruption risk than it's ever had.
I can see that.
And part of the reason is that because now that we have unlocked this knowledge kind of bucket, is that people are going to be able to jump in there and create better solutions that are going to align people with different lines of work or different kinds of ways of thinking, and that we're going to start to see even weird different certifications or ways that we're able to measure people and be like, going to that college isn't going to get you as much as if you go into this other program that's not even like aligned with the college, because they're adaptive, they're faster, they're able to get you right into what you need to start thinking about, and they think about the struggle, but they also think about like what's the reality of your pathways of being able to produce and create results. And I think that's the challenge, is that the bureaucracy and the politics are going away because there's other better ways to be able to get people spun up.
And maybe cheaper. Be
cheaper
nice if,
sure.
nice if it would be cheaper.
This goes back to your thing, your little AI floating by your head helping you, your Socratic assistant that makes you in that right space. I feel like we're going to turn into the next topic. I think we're ready for it.
I think we're ready. All right, let's do it.
We have one question before it. Do you think we'll see the education industry will change in our lifetime? And I think we have, to be honest with you. There's big dollars that go into certain kind of states and other ways of doing that. But in the last few years, and let's say few, I'm going to say maybe 2 decades, I've watched in higher education, because that's where I've been in for these couple years, is it's turned into something that's more about what do you get from higher education when you step out the door.
Yeah.
And it's happened so fast that knowledge turns over, that the value, like, okay, you got a PhD 20 years ago. What's the value in that?
Right. Not nearly as much.
And so we have to start to think about it as, and I love this concept. There's a couple folks that are out there that have this discussion, is like, education isn't a one and done thing. Like, should we have and I hate to say it, but like subscriptions to colleges or universities, to where you say, hey, I'm going to pay a certain amount. And yeah, at one point I'm getting a certification or some sort of degree, but then I'm going to come back in 5 years when I need to get re-upped on some stuff. And then you have a certain amount that you spend on that. And then I think what I really hope to see is that the value is that you get to interact with other people. There's real kind of discourse on campuses, that interaction with other people. And what you're starting to build is more of like a community around coming back and having these other questions and insights when you need it.
Yeah, it's like a network. It's oftentimes more of a network building. There's that one tech entrepreneur, and he's like, hey, you know what college is great for? Meeting your wife and meeting your co-founder.
Yeah, it's I have hot insights about this, and like I want to talk about AI so day. It's just, I feel like education's up against a really hard wall because funding models across the nation are really tough. It depends on like which state you're in, as well as their funding models, and so we're going to get tighter and tighter on our budgets, and so like our ability to produce and do the things that we need for our students is going to be a challenge as we go forward. And so I think that's what we're going to see is some of the challenges going into this. And so it'll be interesting to see the disruption, because there's companies right now, they're like, I will not hire that college student because they don't have the skills that are necessary to go into this field that I'm working towards.
That's true.
I'm going to mic drop that one. Boom.
Boom.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's true.
Another topic. We have like 3 topics that have come up from the conversation.
Amazing. Love that.
Ryan, I feel like it's time.
Let's do it.
Everyone ready for this? Ready for this?
It's the main topic with Adam and Ryan on the Hangout.
Gotta love that.
Gotta love that.
That was just as a side note, Sora helped make some of that.
I bet. No, you didn't sing that, huh?
I didn't. No, that was me. It's totally me the whole time. Tonight's topic, the death of boredom. So it's an interesting insight, and I said this one sparked for me. Ryan and I swap on the topics every other week here, and so one of the thoughts that really surfaced this one for me was Ryan had talked about in a short, and we kind of alluded to at the very beginning of the show, about film students unable to watch an entire film without being distracted by their phones or getting entirely like bored and having to be engaged in something.
Yep.
And as I started to sit with that for a while, I even saw in myself some of these things that we see. And so I had produced some anecdotes initially in saying that, like, have you ever been sitting there and you just reach for your phone and you just like look at it? Like you sit in a moment and you feel like there's something missing. I need to have some sort of engaging like thing happening in those moments. And what I propose and what I think is that boredom was a place, and we're going to get to this in the past in a little bit. And right now it's a place that we don't often get to visit. Yeah. We
don't have to.
And is it even a place you visit anymore? And is it more something that we have to practice? So it's
the idea of practicing being bored is fun.
and maybe that's not the underlying thought on this, is that we would want to be bored, but what did the boredom produce in us, and what kind of engagement and other insights might we think about as we start to think about what boredom did for us? And so I think that as we start to get into boredom, there were some interesting things that we've had as we thought in the past, but let's talk about the present right now, because I think this is the big one. And when I mentioned reaching for the phone, why do I feel like I have to always be engaged? Why do I feel like any pause of a moment needs to be fixed with some sort of engagement or productivity or doing something? Mm-hmm. And that's where this surfaced for me, is starting to think about, like, why did we get to this place, and why do we feel like we're always overclocked, we're always busy, we're always having to do something? I've heard this so much. People are like, I'm so tired. I'm so like just done at this point. And there doesn't seem to be an escape for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where, well, right now, you know, in the current age that we are living in, you don't need, there's no reason for you to be bored. The thing that you carry around with you in your pocket all the time is there to was specifically designed to fill those spaces in between when you have nothing to do, which used to be a lot. And I feel like back in the day, we used to think that was, you want to fill those up with something. And as human beings, we sort of seek novelty and all of that kind of stuff. So then we're just like, okay, great. I will jump on my phone. And even if it's something productive that you're doing, you're not sitting there being bored. Like, and it's hard to get away from because it's built to grab us like that.
And, in the chat, the Mike UC had made a really good point, and it leads into our metric discussion here, is they're like, sorry, looking at my phone, what now? Obviously kidding, but he had said, sometimes you reach for a phone as a coping mechanism, also in social situations. And so we looked at some articles online. I want to get something, I don't know how reputable review.org is, but they did they did a cell phone usage report. Anybody want to guess how many times per day you check your phone? A normal human in US checks their phone. Anybody want to take a guess on this one?
I mean, I can see it up on the screen, so I'm not going to guess, but that is very high.
186 times is the current average. And so, that's like essentially when you're awake around every 5 minutes or so that you're looking at your phone. And then those most of those people, like 85%ish, are checking their phone within 10 minutes of waking up.
Yep.
And my phone is like, right, I wake up, grab phone.
Yep.
What are the notifications? What is the news? What is this thing happening? Good guess on 400. I mean, I'm sure that's actually probably some of those that are out there.
For sure.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting is that there was about 67% of people admit checking their phone without any notification.
Yeah.
How many of you have closed an app and said, hey, I need to stop being in this app, only to go and open that same app again and realize you're back
10 seconds later,
within the same damn space.
So true. That I feel like that does happen. That does happen to me all the time. Well, and I mean, so at this point, like if we're talking about the current state of this, I think it has to be because of you have a phone in your pocket, right? Like there's the only reason that you're doing that is because it is with you at every moment of every day, and you're just ready to do that. I think if you gave cavemen probably cell phones, they would also be checking. I don't think we have changed necessarily as people. It's just like the thing that we have with us all the time is this sort of oracle of information and entertainment and news and variety that we have never had in the history of the world. And so of course it's compelling, right? Yeah, right. Flip phones for the caveman, of course. But anyway, I do think it's tough to think about it right now, because I do feel like you have to be intentional about boredom at this point. You can't just let boredom be on top of you, because you could not be bored your entire life.
And one of the things is that's what I called this the death of boredom.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we were in a space, and we'll get to the past momentarily here. And one thing I just want to call out about the present is that we talk about boredom like it's this grand thing, and I want to just address something before it gets out of control here, is that the phones and the connectivity and the collaboration and all these other pieces were something that has helped others build community, build some collaboration, build connectivity, and do things that are positive. And I'm not leaning into the fact that just sitting there bored doing nothing is what we're trying to get at here, but it's the results of what boredom would start to bring into our lives as we start to go forward. And so before we get to that conversation, what I wanted to say was that I didn't grow up with a phone in my pocket. I didn't even grow up with with cell phones.
Pager?
A thing. I remember learning on the typewriter, so we got to transition some of those things. So
I did have a typewriter.
We didn't have some options to be in a space where there was something to fill the gap. Your brain had to do that for you, and I think those are some of the things that you want to think about. I'm just curious out there. Does anybody know when the last time they were truly bored, nothing to do, bored out of their mind? Anybody have any kind of recent thoughts around that? Is that something that you experience anymore? More because I remember that a lot at one point, but I do not feel like I've been there in any recent times.
I feel like sometimes my phone will die, right? I feel like there's been times where the electricity goes out and I'm like, gosh, I wish I had a magazine or something, because like I've lost all the print, out of my life that doesn't do that. I feel like I have been bored intentionally because I've been hearing about this, and this is not I feel like sometimes we do topics like this and they're like, in the last 2 years, this came up because of AI or something. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we have been thinking about this since sort of cell phones kind of came up, or maybe even before that with like internet-ish like things. And so this has been on my mind for a little bit. Like we watched a YouTube video, or I put one in the Discord for Adam that was like Manoush Somarodi used to do the podcast on NPR. She does like the TED Radio Hour now, and she had a show. And they did a whole segment that was, hey, let's try to use our phones less. Download this app and it'll show you how many times you open your phone and unlock it every day. And then it'll sort of give you tips on how to do less of that. And they had things every day where delete your favorite game off your phone, so maybe you won't play it as much and things like that. And I went through that. I downloaded her app and I went through the whole community thing, and I probably cut maybe 10 or 15%, I think, off of my time that I was on my phone. But man, that was 10 years ago. And so it's interesting. It's like we've got to do more research and things like that on here. And I feel like they're showing, hey, maybe just even if they're productive things that you're doing on your phone, there's benefits to just sitting there with your own thoughts.
And you're hitting on like some of the areas that I wanted to take this is that boredom was so structural for us in the past that like you couldn't escape it. You could not just be distracted from thinking. And so, certain people maybe not so much, but like I got to the point where I had to think about my thinking because you were so bored. You're like, why am I thinking that? And then like being able to run through those kind of things in your mind is what really feeds metacognition, which we'll talk about in the past, or at least some of the insights around what metacognition is. But one of the things that is a personal anecdote is that I remember long car rides or waiting rooms or those Sunday afternoons or just being outside and like not knowing about time, not knowing about what things were, and just being okay without feeling like I had to be continually engaged that entire time. And so then I flip that and I look at my kids today, where both of them have multiple devices simultaneously, like playing video games, watching YouTube, sometimes also having their phone out on a third device. And then the excruciating pain that they go through when one of those things or none of those things are there, or we go do something out and about,
right,
and they can't be on their phone 24/7. And like, it's actually a physical pain that they have because they're like an addict that can't have these gap fills that have now been designed to fill these moments that used to be boredom that were structural and allowed us to think about ourselves and think about thinking.
And I think like, I mean, even before the internet, we had cable TV, right? Like, I mean, with the internet and cable TV and books and games and all of that, like, we have been a long time since, you were just in the middle of nowhere with no electricity and nothing to do. Like, humanity has sort of been able to entertain themselves with every down moment for a while now. We just haven't, right? Because it was inconvenient to do. It was, there were times where you just couldn't do anything because you were in a car or you were riding somewhere or you were waiting somewhere where you couldn't do that. And so I feel like it was just back basically before cell phones, like there were times where you were just forced to do it. And in a lot of ways, I feel like we were trying to keep ourselves from being bored, right? If you were bored at your house and whining to your mom that you were bored, like her idea wasn't, well, maybe you should just sit there bored, stare at the wall and think about thinking. It was like, no, go outside and do something or play this game, like figure something out. Right. And so not only is it, you don't have the thing of like, oh yes, I'm thinking about thinking and doing the, sort of good rumination of being bored with yourself, but you're also just not like being creative in the way of coming up with things and having ideas and being creative of how am I going to use this space to play or entertain myself now. You're just kind of like, well, I'll just default to the entertainment that the algorithmic feed gives me.
And that you're hitting on my theory here, or my insight is that it's like boredom is dead, or at least it's very close to death and life support, if you will, because of the fact that you used to have these as moments. It was a place that you were almost inescapable on, whereas now that space has been kind of monetized and designed to be like taken, and you are looking at that. And so when you're in a boredom moment and you're like starting to think, and I remember this, like you and I, even in those times, we'd be like, hey, here's a ball. And we'd be throwing it around, and we're like, hey, look at that little like vase over there. Do you think you could bounce it off the wall into there? Oh, what if we did this? And like just our like ability to think through things. Or even a better example, hey, who is that actress? Or what was that
Right.
thing? I don't know. Cool. Well, we don't have any way to figure that out. We're just going to have to sit with not knowing, and we might ruminate, we might think, and then later on, oh yeah, there was that one person. And I think like we had to think harder, and we had to like really use our brain and like stretch it a little bit more. Now, am I just feeling like an old person saying that's a good or bad thing? I'm not saying it is or not, but I do have some neuroscience that we'll talk about in a minute.
Well, we just talked about the journey being the thing that is important, not the destination, right?
Yeah.
And when you're talking about being bored, it's not having the thing in the moment that just fixes your boredom. It's the journey to become not bored, right? By trying something out and bouncing things off of stuff and coming up with a random game, you know, like that was just a thing that you had to do. Whereas nowadays, you're just kind of like, well, I can either just give in to a thing that is, you know, alleviates my boredom at all times, or I can sort of be intentional about being bored, which we've never had to do as humans, I don't think.
No, Mike as well talked about it earlier too, and we're going to get into like the digital detoxes and the ways that you can do that, and there's going to be some challenge too, because there's years now of engagement and design to get us engaged and into these things, so you can detox yourself for a bit, but what's the lasting impact on that? And you know, we're at this point, we talked about those metrics, how many 186 times a day that you look at your phone. So there's a difference between choosing to pick it up and it just being a stimulus now. We're almost like
Right.
it's
It's muscle
Pavlov.
memory.
Yeah, you do those things and you check it even when there's no notifications. Who has had the phantom notification?
Oh, of course, right? Phantom buzzing in your pocket.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it's a thing.
That's a full on thing.
And so here's the thing: is that like I think that it gave certain people this community. We talked about this in a minute. Like the internet, the ways that phones have come together. It's done some things. I'm not being like completely anti-technology here.
Sure.
But it is clearly there's a challenge. There's an engagement. There's something that's happening out here that we need to consider as we go through this, which would bring me into like more of like the core idea. So let's take a little bit back into the past and what we know about kind of neuroscience and some of the metacognition and why we think boredom was an important component of it. But it's because it evoked some of this critical thinking and some of the ways we think about it. So the main talking point that I wanted to get to that I thought was a really clever one was the 3 B's. That's the bus, the bath, the bed. And those are like, those were idea generation zones. If you found yourself in some kind of moment and you found yourself kind of stuck in your head, you would start to push on these boundaries in these areas, and you would start to like develop some thoughts around things. And so when we start to think about neuroscience, there is absolutely studies in science that talk about when you have low stimulation in the brain, that's what starts to evoke a little bit more of your creativity. That's what
Right.
starts to draw out a little bit more of that deeper thinking and ways that you can start to see things through a different lens. And so I thought that was a really interesting piece of this because Ryan talked about this. There's this thing called default mode network. And so it activates when you're not focused.
Yeah.
And it's basically when there's nothing that's outside there's not some sort of external task that you're worried about, and you're sitting still. And so when you're bored, this is what comes out, and you're able to start to think in a different capacity, in a different, deeper way. You think about thinking. You start to think about, what is happening. And then you get interrupted when you have engagement or some other media or some other kind of like thing that starts to hit onto you. And I think we're lost a lot of that. We've lost the ability to get deeper into some of our thinking in some moments because it used to be a place that we couldn't escape.
And I think we've lost it. I think it just used to come to us naturally, right? We had to think we were bored because there wasn't stuff to do. And so we naturally went into this default mode network. And like, I like the thing where they were talking about what when you get into that DMN is like, you also come up with scenarios in your head. And I have definitely done that, like, let's think about the future. And what if I did this? And how could that be? And then I would talk to this person and do that. And your brain just sort of, I feel like, is entertaining or it's just throwing things out there to keep you sort of engaged. And because it wants you engaged in things, like, we have evolved as a society to not just be placid and take what society brings to us, right? Like, it is rewarded human beings and their brains who go, let's think of something new, think of something different. Like, how could we do this? And so your brain like sort of wants to do that. And the way that it gets it now, though, is it gets it from seeing new and novel things, and it thinks it's learning, and it thinks it's like being creative, I think. But it really, it's just sort of being bombarded with a whole bunch of new stuff. And so it's kind of like replacing that, oh, I want to be creative and I need a moment to sort of think about it, because like you said, it can be almost like literally painful to be in this state of being bored. Like they talked about a study that they would do where they took people and they put them into a room and they were like, you're going to be in this room for 15 minutes and you can either do nothing. There's absolutely nothing to do in the room except for stare at the walls. And you could do that for 15 minutes, or you can put your hand into this thing that will shock the crap out of you. And there's nothing good. It's just, you could just do that if you got bored, right? And they said 30% of women and 60% of men could not just handle being in the room with their own thoughts. They shock themselves at least once with that machine. And I think it's just because like it is really uncomfortable to be in that position of being bored. And so we try to get out of it as quickly as we can. And man, your phone is set up to specifically handle that situation. Your mentality is that you really want to get out of the situation and not be bored anymore. And those two things coming together just means the death of boredom.
I think you eloquently put that, Ryan. And also that's, I think, where the biggest concern is that I have right now is that if we're not able to let our brain process things and we're always at this heightened state, we're engaged and we're constantly have to be plugged into the news and plugged into these engaging situations. Like it's FOMO in a certain way. Like what am I missing out on if I'm not plugged into the feed at all times? It's the idea that like it's really hard just to sit, like you said, in some sort of a stillness because we've been trained that way. So I would really love to understand, like when they did that test, like what were all the other factors that got you there? Like if there was some person that had for some reason not been able to be around a phone for their life, would they have shocked themselves more so than somebody that's already been plugged into this engagement loop? Was like, has it been induced, or is it something that has been like, like a learned activity, or has that always been there?
I imagine if you had spent a ton of your life being bored and waiting for things to happen, and you'd spend hours waiting for the thing, hunting or something like that, and waiting for prey, and somebody was like, all you have to do is sit in this room for 15 minutes and not hurt yourself. I imagine you could probably do that easier than someone who is being constantly bombarded with information and news and entertainment. That just feels like, maybe that's anecdotal, but that feels like, an easy comparison.
So this is my anecdote on this, but it's also kind of based in some science. So I talk about metacognition. Ryan, do you know what metacognition is?
A little bit. I feel like I've heard that.
So it's the idea that you can start to actually think about your own thinking.
Yeah.
It's where you have a thought and then you start to go beyond that thought and say, why do I think that way? Or why do I behave this way? Or, hey, I was in this situation. How am I being received in that situation in such a way that I might want to make some changes intentionally inside yourself? And so where I kind of like, this was my spine of this story for me was really the thinking about thinking. And so I had mentioned it in the little short that I talked about, but this is a moment that I can kind of dive into it a little bit more, is that if you imagine even where we're at, maybe politically in certain cases, is that there's this polarization. There's this idea that we can't even see from another person's angle, a lot of people. And maybe I don't want to be generalizing that, but it feels like you pick a side.
Yeah.
And I feel like I remember a time where you could kind of see from different angles, and it wasn't all just like, black and white. It wasn't such like there was a lot of gray in there that where you could like, well, I understand this person and this perspective. And so I believe that you get there by being able to think how you think and building up some like awareness of who you are as a person so that you can sidestep in certain moments and say, you know what, I was an asshole today.
Right.
And on reflection, that was something I probably shouldn't have said. And like the way that I behaved or the kind of presence that I brought out in this moment wasn't great. And here's the thing is that I think that boredom helped to induce that more in people because it was a place. It was something you couldn't escape.
Yeah.
You had to be in that space.
Right.
And so you don't have the shocking system. You don't have the phone in front of you. You were like really stuck there. And so then people start to say, okay, well, I'm stuck in this moment. I'm going to use my brain. And you start to think about things a little bit more. It gives you the space to think about it. It gives you that place for it to kind of grind through it. And in some people that are, maybe it's a little bit more natural and others maybe not so much, but I think it got more people there.
Yeah.
It got them thinking about their thinking enough that they were able to be a little bit more open to these other opportunities and things that are happening. And so I think with the devoid of that is what you end up getting is you get these engaging loops that are telling you what you should be thinking. They're feeding you these concepts and insights, and you don't have a time to reflect and like really chew on what is being pushed at you.
Yeah, it's one of the like more insidious things about social media, right? And the way that they build these loops into phones is not only is it keeping you in that silo of whatever you want to do of engagement, but it's not even allowing you to take a step back from it at certain points and say, let me look at this maybe a little more critically from having a while to chew on it, like you said. Now you don't even get that. You could fill up every single moment of that with whatever leaning politic podcast that you want,
right?
And that's scary because a lot of people can't pull themselves out of that, or at least would really have to be intentional to pull themselves out, and a lot of times they don't want to.
Well, and so this goes into the design angle. This has been a design, and I think initially it wasn't maybe as prevalent because people were kind of figuring out their way. So when data became currency and it became something that you realized, okay, this is how we're going to be able to get this like very narrow person to buy my product or to engage in my platform, is that we have to understand their behaviors so then we can kind of turn it around. And the only way we can understand those behaviors is we need to feed them the right amount of data so they're interacting with buttons and clicks and eyes to do this. And so I feel like we sold boredom in a sense, or like at least it subtly feels like it happened. You had mentioned earlier before we got in the stream, it was like, well, the internet was around or cable TV was around. Like every generation has had their brain rot. And I think that the argument that I would come into is that those were even time-based in a lot of ways. So like cable TV, for instance, yes, it'd be there, but you couldn't always just pick it up unless you recorded on a VHS and you did some sort of.
Well, you couldn't be at the post office waiting in line and pick up your cable TV package and watch a TV show. Like you had to be at home, you had to be on your couch. Other people, probably weren't there. Whereas now you could be on your phone and there's other people, sitting around. And so those were sort of it was getting us to the phone though. There were just little baby steps towards it.
Yeah, and so we finally got to this point where it was so pervasive that boredom started to disappear. And I think this is like one of the roots that we're into right now. Like if you go around and you even like go doom scroll, everyone's saying they're stressed out. They feel like they're like everything has been the grind. I even remember during COVID, like it was hard for me to unplug from work. And I feel like that grind culture has just become something that you feel like you have to do. If you are not engaged with learning, some sort of weird meme that's out there, or like looking at society and being part of it, you're missing something.
It's totally true. I mean, I feel like we focused a lot on like garbage, intake of social media doom scrolling.
Right.
But I also feel like there's a side of it where like there are podcasts that I listen to about science, about culture, about art and history and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like good about myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm learning a thing. Adam and I have this podcast about boredom coming up. If I'm not doing the dishes and listening to this YouTube a video about boredom from 10 years ago, like why would I be sitting here with my thoughts? Like I have, stuff that I want to do and make myself better. But in a lot of ways, like that's why you have to be intentional, right? It's like sometimes you just have to be bored, like this week, yesterday night, I had to cleaning up the house. My wife was sick. She had done her best to like get our house cleaned up for our in-laws coming in today. But like, it was just going to be 3 hours of Ryan cleaning from 9 to midnight. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to listen to a podcast, right? I'm not going to listen to, this book on tape that I've been wanting to do. I'm just going to sit here with my own thoughts and be like, all right, I'm going to be here for 3 hours. And I don't know if I came up with any sort of brilliant ideas for anything or anything like that, but like the opportunity was there as opposed to me just zoning out and listening to my book on tape, which that's what we have to do. We have to think about that now.
I love the idea. Like there's times where you have a thought, and I'm curious on, and then is if you ever had this thing you were working really, really, really hard on, and you just can't nail it right in the moment, and you step back, you maybe go to sleep for the night, you let your brain just relax, and something sub-processes. It goes in the back end, and then when you step out of that and you come back later, it's like an epiphany. You're like, of course, why didn't I see this before?
Video game bosses, I will say.
Hell yeah. Grind through a gazillion times.
Oh, God, until midnight and can't do it, and then get up the next morning and beat it in one.
Because you reset yourself. And so I think that's what I'm getting at is that, how do we get to that place that we can kind of chew on things more? And I remember many times, and I still do this, where I will go and sit in my room, and I really have to intentionally do this. Very hard to do. I'm not going to even pretend. But, I turn off the phone, turn off the vibrate. There's no way for me to know where it's at. Take off the watch, and I sit in my mind. And I try to think about things in a different capacity. And just like really like, I feel like I'm in this playground in there. And maybe I'm a weirdo for doing this. I also, when I run, I'm a runner. And I'm very intentional, not listening to music, not anything. And just like feeling my body in those moments and like seeing all the things that are around me, feeling things. And sometimes I just feel like I'm this like floating head and my body's just like running through this thing, and I lose like what the heck is going on mechanically with myself. And some of those moments have really like surfaced some like areas where I'm like, all right, I need to now like take that to ground a little bit more. And I would love for us to think more critically and have those opportunities. That's why I feel that, boredom was something that was a positive area that we could get some of that.
I want to bring up a comment in the chat from the Mikey Mouse. Mikey Ouse is meditation. And I was thinking about this too. Like the other day when I was cleaning, I was like, what is the difference between boredom and meditation? Because you're sort of trying to get into that same mindset, right? But actually I was looking up, I was doing some research on it, and I was like, oh, they're actually very different things. Because in one way you're trying to the boredom side, that thing that like comes up and it's like, oh, let's think about the future. Let's think about, what we're doing and creative thoughts and just sort of letting your mind kind of, wander in lots of different ways is different from trying to like clear your mind of it. And in some ways it's almost like boredom is the unintentional, like thinking when you don't have any outside stimulus, and so the stimulus is inside your mind, whereas meditation is more like intentional, like trying to clear your mind of those things. And they have different benefits and stuff, but I almost think like if we in the future are not going, and I don't know if we're in the future part yet here, Adam.
Close.
But like we're close. I will just say that like I do think, just because we brought up the meditation in the chat, like I do think in the future you're going to have to think about boredom almost as a meditation sort of practice that you do, where right now you might have a meditation practice and you're like, I think about it and I sit down for 20 minutes and I play the app and it leads me through a meditative thing. I think you could also think about it in the way of like, boredom is not going to be thrust upon you ever again. And so you're going to have to think about it as a like practice that you do that is, I am going to forego watching these things and I'm just going to let my mind wander. And when I run or when I cook or when I clean or when I'm on the bus or whatever, like you're going to have to think about it like meditation in that way. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like we should be more thoughtful of our thoughts.
It goes to the word that you brought up, over podcasts ago about friction.
Right.
Is one, because we got to figure out how do we like detach ourselves even for that second to realize it's important. And then how do you really build it into your day?
Yeah.
And I do think that it's going to take some intentionality. And so I do want to go into some of the future and things that we're starting to see right to this day. Mike Azul mentioned it earlier.
Intro the future.
Talked about the detox, the dopamine detox. And so if you start to look at what doom scrolling is about, or like our engagement with things, is what we're evoking is this dopamine release, and the engagement cycles are starting to be a lot like less and less. And so if you want to feel good about yourself, go on, a shorts or whatnot. And you'll even notice that shorts nowadays, when I say shorts, like video shorts on YouTubes and TikToks and those things, they even have videos that are on top of videos. So you're like, they're showing something, there's a background video, because they know that your engagement is such like a sliver of your ability that you have to be hit it with so much at this point that it is really tough to keep even attention there, because you're just constantly trying to get that dopamine release. So when we talk about a dopamine detox, people are intentionally spending time stepping away from technology, sitting on a chair for an hour straight, doing nothing but just being in their own mind. There's also something called a stillness exercise. Mike Azul had mentioned earlier, like people are staying on planes and just trying to be in their mind as you kind of go for that. I think it's an important thing to start to do in practice. How much does that then help you on the other side if you go right back into engagement after? I think those are some of the questions that I would ask myself, is that something that we would be able to continue moving forward with? And so I think that we got to reclaim parts on our day. We got to be intentional about that. One of the things that I think is important too is that there are moments where you're with other humans that you just got to put your damn phone away and have those interconnective moments.
Right.
But that's one whole other social part of this. How do you just do that for yourself? How do you be okay with being in your own mind and allowing yourself to have some of those lower stimulation moments and not be so like tied into this? And so I think this is where we're at. It's not a retreat anymore. It's something that we really need to start to think about as a critical part of our day.
And I think, we talked about like, when one of the news articles, right, was like how to put friction into things. I have an anecdote, or we talked about an art professor who, as part of their art class, you have to go to a museum and stare at one piece of art without speaking to anyone about it or looking up things about it for 3 hours. And that is the assignment. Is you go and you pick one piece of art and you bring your little chair and you sit down and you look at it for 3 straight hours. And then you write about that piece of art. And what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to retrain you a little bit to have longer bouts of concentration on things, which I think we all know. But like, it also, the students, when they talk about it, like there's so much more that you notice, and that just a passing glance at something doesn't get you when you stare at something for 3 hours. And I will say, I heard about this, and my wife, Catherine, and I went to a fine art opening at the Fine Arts Center in Colorado Springs. And we were like, we're there, and I noticed off to the side they had these little tiny seats that you could just grab and walk around with, and they folded up, and they were very small little stools. And I was like, oh, I bet that's for people who just want to sit and look, right? And so I told Kathy about this art professor, and I was like, let's do it, not for 3 hours, but like, let's do 10 minutes, right, in front of this one. And I would say it was difficult. You're like, oh, I have a question about this. Like, I almost, my brain is instantly being like, man, I wonder what kind of like, oils they were using. What kind of oils did they use in 1683 when this was painted? I really wanted to grab my phone and like look that up. And you're like, no, just sit here and stare at this and look at different parts of it and appreciate it more than you did. And then Hattie and I had a way more interesting conversation about the art that we were looking at than we would have if we would have spent 90 seconds on it, right? We came in and there were parts that we had noticed, interesting things that we had thought about while we were staring at it for 10 minutes. And it was hard, but like, it was better in the end than us just walking around to all of these different pieces and spending 30 seconds on them.
I think you hit on a really good insight that kind of surfaced as you had that discussion, and it goes into even like relationship building. So if you go into a room full of people and you try to build some sort of connection and you're just shaking hands and having conversations, it gets very surfacey.
Yep.
And so you go into an art museum or you go into some kind of environment and you go and look at everything really casually, and you come out of that and you just think like, yeah, I saw a bunch of art today. That was great.
Sure.
But what you're saying is that you go in and you have to dedicate some time with one piece that's going to get you to deeply think about it a lot more, and the value and the insights and the ability to like go through that experience is going to take something a little different away from it.
Like, I would say one of the things that we even did, just as an example, like we were looking at a piece and I was like, this section of the piece is obviously the focal point. And I was like, and it's a really visually interesting piece. And that's probably what I would have taken away from a 90-second like viewing of that. But then when I was really sitting there, I was like, why is that section so interesting? Like, is it the contrast of the colors? Is it the content? Is it the brush stroke that they use is different than this other piece of it? Is it a more complex like thing? Did they want to bring your eye to that for a reason, for like the storytelling that is happening within that? And it was all things that then I got to have a conversation with my wife about, as opposed to like, hey, that's an interesting piece. Like, and so, that really nailed home the thing of like, you should be sitting there and thinking about your thoughts and be bored with things, not only just for like building that creative whatever, but just like, life is more interesting when you take a moment to look at stuff as opposed to just trying to get in as many things as quickly as possible.
Which I think gets us into this, this future state that we're trying to understand here, is that if we are seeing right now, we're super engaged and super like surfacey and having all these engagement loops and not having enough time. I'll go back to it, is you can't think intentionally if you do not have the space for it.
Yeah.
And so as we go through it, I would love, from a chat perspective, what's one space in your day that you would want to protect, like from your phone or for some of those? I would love to understand, like, is there something out there? And when you get into those moments, does it feel weird or does it feel good? I would love to understand, like, what are those things that, you protect? And like I said, running was one of mine for me. There's a moment in the mornings when it's nice outside that I like to sit on the back porch and just have like a coffee and just watch the sunrise.
Nice.
Like nothing on me, like phone, everything. Then like, you just like, all right, I'm taking this time to do that. And just like sit in the moment and not even try to think, just like have my brain just be like done. So those are some of those moments,
and I feel like I love the frame that you had. Like, you could almost say, those are when you're bored before, those were uncomfortable because they were forced upon you, right? but you can like reclaim boredom as not a painful thing, but as an intentional thing that you know is going to make is like a wellness thing, right? Of like, you know, it's going to make your life better. You know, you're going to have more creative thoughts. You know that you're going to be able to like, you know, think about things that you wouldn't before. And so then that pain maybe is not as painful at that point. You know, just how meditation is not painful after you get good, you know, and be able to do the exercise is not necessarily pain. People love that, you know, they want to be able to go in and be fit and do that. I think this could almost be reframed as just a part of your life that you need to be intentional about. Same as exercise, same as eating healthy, same as well-being is boredom.
I like, we got some insights like family dinner,
right?
Being one of those areas.
Totally. Like no phones,
protecting from that.
No phones at the dinner table, that type of stuff. Like basically having moments where you're not going to be distracted by things.
Is there a personal moment that doesn't involve other humans? Because I think that, you know, family dinner, I agree. Like, I love that because
Sure.
you want to engage with folks.
Right.
You still have that like engaging of your mind in those moments in some
Right,
case.
because
or,
you're
like, an
talking with
activity.
someone, you're understanding what they're saying, you're coming up with what you want to say.
Like, is there a personal moment? Because I think this is one of the things that we get to into the future is I think we're feeling very drawn into having to always know something or be plugged in. And I think it's also because sometimes we love our families and we love, and like, if something's going wrong, I need to know within the minute
Right.
that there was something that I need to support them with. And like that uncomfortableness of being able to say, you know what, I can put this away and I can just be in my own self and like appreciate these moments is an important piece of it.
FOMO, like the FOMO side of it, right? That if you're not doing things like all the time,
Toilet time.
toilet time.
We don't want to talk about the other things that come from sitting on the toilet long and the other kind of issues that people are dealing with. But I think where we're at right now is that as we think about dopamine detoxes and these weekend
Right.
getaways and these other kind of things we talked about, is that it's something that is signaling that there is something missing in our lives, or there's something that we need to do. This overclocking feeling, always being on. I think this is one of the keys for me that's helping me get to somewhere where I can think about this in a different lens.
I love Laura's thing. It's like, I'm thankful that the shower makes bringing my phone impractical. I'm trying to enjoy showers for me. That's so true, right? Because you can't bring your phone in there. And so you're just kind of in there with your own thoughts and your shampoo.
So here's the question. I got two of them, or two kind of scenarios here. Love to hear from anybody that's out there as well. But Ryan and I talked about this one. So how do we move forward here? We talked about we need it.
Yeah.
We talked about intentionality to do this. And so maybe in ourselves, because we happen to transition between a time when there was this and there isn't, think about our kids today.
Yeah.
They have grown up in this fully engaged, always on kind of environment. So do you teach it or do you protect from it? We've talked enough about social media, trying to like protect and doing
Protect
some
it.
of those pieces. But then on the flip side, it's kind of like if you always try to like hide something from someone, or like you can't look at this or you can't do this, it draws them more into it. And the other flip side is, do you teach them and you give them this adaptability and their, you know, the capacity to do that, but then they're also distracted because there's this other engagement. So I'm really curious, do we teach, protect? It's a little bit of both, which is probably our always default answer, but I would love to get kind of some insights around that.
I think the problem is that right now the technology companies have a monopoly on this attention thing, and they are spending billions of dollars to be able to make their stuff so addictive that they're losing court battles for hundreds of millions of dollars because of how good they are at it, right? And who is on the people's side? There is not a there's no person lobbying in government for boredom.
It's
You
double
know?
drop down. We're here on the Hangout, the lobbying for the people.
I guess that's true. We are. But like, you know what I'm saying? All of this technology and thought power and everything to make you engaged with your phone is like so much there to make that frictionless as possible, right? And it's only going to get less and less frictionless and more engaging with AI. And so that's why I feel like you have to set up times. Like maybe it's not going to be the government. Maybe it can't be so overarching that like they're blackout times of phones when the internet doesn't work. It's like you can't, I feel like that would be hard to do. But I think like us as communities or families or small things like that can say that it is important to have time where you don't have a scheduled thing to do, because I also feel like a lot of times we put kids into very organized, parent organized sports events or activities that don't allow for just sort of creativity like that. And so you're saying, no, it's not going to be like that. We're not all going to go and, play an organized sport together like pickleball. You're just going to go to the park and figure it out, and, and maybe that's running around and figuring out some new game. But I think you could say like, okay, like we are going to build that into our, family dynamic that we have. Same as I make you, do your dishes and do your homework and things like that. You just have to say like, yes, now we have to be intentional about boredom because we know from the science that it's super important. We know that we're not getting enough of it, and you're already on your phone a lot. So we're just going to like have time where you don't have that. And I feel like that isn't something that we think about adding into the schedule of our days, but we might have to start thinking about it.
I absolutely think this is the right take on it. And I'm going to go to something that, you were like, what, Adam? You just always say like, it's too hard, give up on it. I'm agreeing with you on this, is that it's going to take some effort, and it's probably going to have to be on an individual or maybe even a family or a community basis where we develop these opportunities to be able to step in these places again. Like maybe the place isn't 100% gone. Like I said earlier, maybe it's on life support with the boredom piece, but we got to build it into our weeks in some capacity. Maybe it is as simple as saying like, all right, I'm going to spend an hour of my freaking week where I am going to absolutely unplug, and I'm just going to go sit somewhere and do some things. And maybe you start to build that up to maybe 2 hours, or you do some other things, or you bring the family, like you said, to the park and said, hey, phones away. We're going to be able to spend some time. You do what you need to do in this space together. And here's the other thing is I think that because our kids maybe have not had that opportunity to feel that boredom as much as we did, is that I would hope, or I would push towards saying that once you have more of those moments and you get to that thinking, or maybe you even prompt some questions before you get into those moments, that will be strong enough for them to say like, hey, that felt really good.
Right.
There was something that came out of that. I may not be able to put my finger on it, but when they get to the point where they're older and like, they're having their own like whatever podcast, that they start to think like it felt good to be in those moments. Because I think the same way. Like I feel like those were really good moments for me, and it helped form who I am today to be able to have the time to think about thinking. And so I don't think anybody today is capable of like not being able to deep think. Like I think they are. I think it's just been taken away, and that they've been addicted, and there's this engagement loop. And so how do we start to pull it away enough that they can start to have some realization of where you can take it?
Yeah.
And so digital detoxes and all those other things are great. And I love to see a little bit more of that. And I think we're starting to see movements in that. People like getting rid of phones, like, smartphones. There's legislation that's coming around about it. And, even when we talk about AI, I'll bring my little AI 2 cents into it. I did a video. It talked about like a framework for how you prompt AI. A lot of people are like, oh, answer machine, I want an essay on X, Y, or Z. And they spit it out. Think about things. Go spend a day or two before you prompt it, like use that time to like really form what you're trying to accomplish, and then come in and start to engage with the AI. And then after whatever comes out, go think about it again. Use that in your boredom time, or the time that we really want to chew on that.
Yeah. I love this idea. And Mike is in the chat. It's like part of a health regime. That's what I feel like. I feel like if we're talking about something and sort of wrapping this up and giving my final thoughts for this, is like really think about it as a part of a thing in your life, just like exercise and just like eating healthy, and just like, being in a community and talking with people, is that you're going to have to need some time where you are bored. And I think the easiest thing for me is to be like, think of a time when it's impractical to have your phone, right? like Laura was talking about being in the shower, right? Or like maybe it's gardening, and you're outside and it's dirty and it's things like that. And just be like, hey, yes, I could bring a Bluetooth speaker out into the garden, right? And I could map my phone to it and I could, finish up that podcast. Or you could be like, we know that boredom is beneficial. And so I'm just going to sit here with my own thoughts. And it's going to be hard for a little bit, but just like eating broccoli instead of French fries, like doesn't feel super amazing in the moment, but afterwards you're like, I feel so much better now. And I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I did this instead of that. And I think this is just how we're going to be with boredom now, because it's been ripped out of our lives by a little piece of, glass rectangle. And, we didn't have to think about it before, but now we do. And I feel like we could be all better for it.
I appreciate that, Ryan. And I would say my hot take to kind of land the plane in my brain around this is that boredom in the sense was the place. The thing that I appreciated about it is the ability to think. Yeah. And to me, the biggest thing that I felt was important and I still feel is important is that we can get back to a place that we're thinking about how we think. Because if we don't make room for that, we're going to be kind of led down other paths that are going to make us feel like tired all the time. Our inability to really engage into some deeper ways of looking at how others are looking at each other.
And AI is going to take over a lot of that thinking. It could take it over, right? And you could allow it to do your thinking. Don't allow that to happen. Think about how to think.
And I think you're 100%, and we're at a really tough spot. But there are enough people, and it's not just us talking about this right now, that are seeing the value in this. Yeah. And if we can really get into these spaces again where thinking is okay, I think there's fear out there, like we talked about the FOMO piece that you don't want to miss out on things.
Right.
Is that once you start to show that, hey, you know what, the whole world's not going to end if I go and take an hour, and even if something happens within that hour, I'm still can plug back in and really engage in that. We have to be intentional about this, and we got to think about it from a health perspective. And for God's sake, like that is something that I've had to really find in myself to be able to find those moments to be able to make this work. And so I do believe that boredom in the sense has been really an area that has been essentially killed because we have so much entertainment and so much engagement with our devices that we have, and it's like literally right here on our thing. But as we start to get into the future, if we can kind of unplug ourselves and really think, I think we're going to find ourselves in a better place for it.
Great conversation, Adam. Good topic. Love talking about that. And another one of those ones where it changed my habits as I was researching it. So thank you.
Absolutely. So if you have any other insights or thoughts about it, Nightbot's been telling you about where you can go to tap those thoughts.
It had 2 in a row, Nightbot. Come on.
Yeah, I was
Stop
talking
being
about
so thirsty.
Come on to our Discord. Go watch our YouTube shorts. It's so good. Thanks for being able to get to this. And this is for me where these little things come out of those boredom moments. I got to be honest. We're past the topic now, but sure. I mean, as a debrief from this is that. It is for me really important to think about thinking, and maybe that's a weirdo thing that's out there that I do, but it takes some effort, and I think it's drawn out with physical activity sometimes a little bit more. That's maybe how it comes out for me. But as we started to get through some of these, it's been really great to kind of chew on something and let it just sit in that subconscious for a while.
Hey, I don't know if we got like an hour. I was thinking, do you want to talk about a little movie you might have seen?
I think this would be good. So here's the deal. Spoilers not going to happen.
No, I don't think we need to spoil. I don't think we need to spoil anything.
But there was a movie and a book that's recently come out. So if you have not seen or read Project Hail Mary.
Yep.
I think we should talk about it a little bit because you brought it up as a book you read this last year. I started reading it recently.
Yeah, exactly. I'd read it, and then us as my family and I listened to the audiobook of it. It's by the same guy who wrote The Martian. And, I enjoyed that book, enjoyed that movie. And so, the movie just came out this last weekend, big hit for Amazon. I think it was Amazon, Amazon. Films. And, $80 million opening. tons of people going out and see it. The theater that I went to was packed when I went and saw it on like a Saturday morning. And anyway, it just, I had been urging Adam to read the book just because I think it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's read, maybe half of it or something like that, saw the movie. We both saw the movie. And I think it would be interesting to sort of get our takes on it. But again, right? No spoilers. I don't think we should spoil anything that wasn't in the advertising for it. If you catch my drift, like the book has a twist in it, a bit of a twist halfway through. And they decided to, basically reveal that in the trailer. But, I think we should talk about that because it's hard to talk about it without.
Yeah. So let's not talk about some of the spoiler moments and maybe talk about some of the emotions and ways that we got. As obvious, and let's just talk about this, is that book is going to have more depth in every capacity. And so when you start to watch some sort of theatrical version of this, it's going to compress certain things. It's going to miss out some of those moments. And I know there were some moments that I was able to definitely see that I was like, they really skipped that one over. And it was really much more dramatic in how I read that and how that thing played out. I will tell you this, Ryan, and I'll be very vulnerable at this moment. I cried during this movie 3 times.
Wow.
3 separate times.
3 separate times. All right.
And it hit me in like a human feel in a couple ways. And I don't know what it evoked inside me, but it really kind of like it had an emotional impact on me. And in the way that it was like the cinematography of it, the way that it like revealed some of the story points and the way that it kind of brought you into the environment, I felt it was done very artfully. It was done in such a way that like evoked some feelings. And I mean, this is not a spoiler. This thing is takes place in space.
Sure.
And so I thought they did a very good job of feeling like there wasn't an up or a down. There was a disorientation of kind of like there isn't one way that is right or wrong. And so that was done in a way for me that just that made me feel like I was actually in space.
Yeah. Well, I heard that they had a tough time figuring out how to show people, show grace in the spaceship under 0 G's. They didn't want to do it with wires and things like that, so they had to come up with a whole new way of like showing him doing that. And I just feel like the directors, so the directors are a duo, Lord and Miller, I think is what their names are, and they've done other movies together, and I feel like they always do a great job. They did the original Lego movie, if you remember that.
Yes.
That was really good, like using like lots of good relationships with people and everything. And so I was really nervous when I saw this movie come out. I was like, how are they going to take this book that I really like, that is really like somewhat long and intense, and put it into a 2.5-hour movie? I was like, that's going to be a tough thing to do because there's so much detail in the book about how they do things. And you're 100% right that they short shrift a lot of things in it, or they just sort of hand wavy things away that are like whole sections of the book figuring things out, And so in the book they go through and it's this whole big thing, and in the movie they just go, yeah, we did that, and then move on, which I get, I completely understand that. I would say that some people, like, there's the reason that those books are good is like he's a great technical writer, right? Like talks about sort of the science of things really well. He talks about sort of the details, and he doesn't yada away things, and that's what's the interesting part about it, is it sort of gets into the detail of how this would actually work. It makes you feel like you are really, like that person is really in that space trying to figure out something that they have never done before. And it's really hard and it takes a long time and all of that. And all of that gets wiped out in the show. But I feel like the directors are so good that they took a lot of what Andy Weir is not necessarily great at as a writer, which is sort of like the human connection between things and how they sort of, I mean, it's okay in the book, but that's not his forte, right? It's the technical stuff. And they took that part out and made that really compelling and great and focused on some of those things. And so when I came out of the movie, I was like, that was a very interesting take on the book that I loved, and didn't try to lean into the parts that they couldn't, because
Right.
that would take too long and it would have been a 5-hour movie or whatever. And they leaned more into the dynamics of the characters in a way that was true to the book, but also then felt new and different and a fresh like take on that. And so I was like, hey, I really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the book slightly better because I'm sort of into that, like, the detail of things and that sort of
For
hard
sure.
sci-fi, which I feel like it is. But yeah, I thought it was really good. And I love the idea, like the original Martian was sort of about like, how do you do this in your own self? Like you're only on Mars, and here's how him and me, he's talking with people a little bit NASA, but it's like he figures it out.
And this is in the prior, the Martian.
The Martian.
Yeah, so this is not this movie, but I agree with you.
And on this movie, it's more about like, how can us as a collective humanity like solve big problems? And to me, it's like, I like that sort of hopeful air that this has. I feel like a lot of times sort of sci-fi and fantasy and fiction has gone down into sort of a more nihilistic or more just kind of like darker and brooding and apocalypse and things like that. And Andy Weir's trying something different. He's like, hey, there's hope, there's we can do big complicated things together. We can come together as societies, and basically not just kill each other and not just argue with each other all the time. And maybe that's like a little Pollyannish, but I think that's I like that direction for media than necessarily just going, doom apocalypse. So I was a fan.
I clearly I can tell. No,
Yeah.
Ryan loves it. No,
Yeah,
it was
totally.
good. And you were one of the ones that got me into the book, and that's when I saw the book, and then the movie came out, and I was like, I wish I'd had the book done. But
You should certainly finish the book.
Clearly.
Like-
Like you said, but the way that I approach book and movie adaptations has been with that same lens of like, I'm never going to be impressed with how they did the movie versus the book. I think there's been very few, like when Ender's Game came out, I was absolutely like mad. I was like, F you, you've screwed up like something that has been like innate
Dear to you.
in me for years.
Totally.
And so this one though, I think it gives you different hits on, like you had said, like the emotional arc that you go through with this kind of a movie, the feelings that you come up. I think it's about, like, for me at least, the feelings that you can experience during kind of this journey. Because then, some of those moments that get cut out can still be filled in the blank, so to piece. It, like that's what the book does. You can go into those little minutia and those little details there, and you can ask that question, or maybe you spend a moment thinking about how you would be in those moments. And that sometimes not revealing every little moment is where that mystery and that ability to start to see it come out, makes a lot of sense. I think that it's it was really well done. I really love that, like I had said earlier, that the feelings that it gives you throughout the entirety of it, really made me feel like I was in a different place.
Yeah. I feel like the visuals are really good in it. Like, it doesn't look like a lot of other space movies that we've seen before, and sort of like the colors and the way that it sort of jumps back and forth between the outside of the ship. Also, I mean, this is more from the book. I like He Higley, Rocky for Best Supporting Actor. But like, just, I mean, obviously he designed this, in the book, but I thought it was interesting just sort of how those characters were designed, how the ship looks completely different from the other ship. And I like all of that stuff is really, really interesting. And it added more to my takeaway from the book, because I was like, oh, now I get to see what sort of the visual interpretation of what I thought that was, that I was using my
Isn't that every
imagination
book
for.
though too? Like, you
I suppose that's true.
you kind of put those pieces out there. So,
But sometimes it's shitty. Sometimes I watch a thing like that and I go, that doesn't seem like how that should look at all, or they messed it up in some way, and I don't feel like they did that this time.
there was a few weak points in it for me, but I'm not going to bring those up.
No.
'cause it'd be
What?
too-
No, I know I'd be interested.
No, I'll tell you after, because
Okay.
it's too spoilery.
Too spoilery.
But I think that overarchingly, if I was going to give it like the review, from the music was amazing.
Right.
I thought that they did a really good justice on the sound. design, the cinematography, the colors, and the choices that they made there. I feel like the acting was genuine. It was really well done. I think that the characters and the interactions between folks was really well done in a lot of ways. I think the innovations that they kind of brought out, if you're going to think about something from a a sci-fi lens, was pretty good. Like, felt like it was unique in certain spaces. And so overarchingly, I would give it a very high ranking. Like, it's definitely up there in one of my favorite kind of sci-fi kind of movies. Like, I could feel myself going and getting this and watching it again and again, because it feels like there's even a slow burn to it where you could have it on in the background and you feel that vibe that's happening.
It felt a lot to me like almost like a throwback to sort of 90s movies, to be honest. It has like a twist in the middle. It's sort of its own self-contained story, right? It wasn't trying to set up some kind of sequel to Project Hail Mary 2, right? Like, it was its own thing. It had some interesting stuff like going on, and it required one acting role I feel like that is a tough role to bring on, and Ryan Gosling, I feel like, did a good job. Like, a majority of this movie is him in a spaceship by himself. Like, that's probably at least half of this movie.
Got to have those pieces. I think that go watch it.
Go watch it. I'd be interested to hear if people go into our Discord. The Nightbot, click on those Discord links. Tell us what you thought about.
Nightbot has been banned. But no, I would say watch it or read it.
Yeah.
All right. The question of the night is: it is 10:19.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to?
I feel like we got to.
Want to play a game here?
Yeah.
What game are we gonna play?
Want to play a game, Adam?
If you're down for a game, you gotta let us know in the chat, because we need to know that you're still out there to turn on a game.
Yeah. I'd be down for some Jackbox or something.
I will do that. Remember how intense it was last time to be able to even log in to the Xbox? Let me go see if this is. Will Nightbot let us?
We'll see. We'll see if you've been good enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me go over there and see what we can do.
Okay. I will talk while you're setting that up and we're moving to the other room. I picked out something to talk about today that I hadn't done before. So there's another, if we're bringing up just media that we want to talk about, there's a Netflix show from 2023. So, it's three years old at this point. And it's called Carol at the End of the World. Carol and the End of the World. And this is a cool, it's a 10 episode arc. One of the writers from Rick and Morty did it, but it is way outside of that sort of pop culture-y fast talking. It's about a woman named Carol, and she's very high anxiety. And it's also just sort of, it starts out and says there's 7 months until the world ends. And what does that look like for everyone in the world, right? And what it does is, most people are doing crazy things, right? They're going surfing for the first time. They're skydiving. They're learning how to speak all these languages. They're spending all of their money on crazy trips to India and things like that, and Tibet. But that's not everyone. Right? What would make you happy in the last 7 months? And so it's sort of her figuring that out for herself in this very, I don't want to spoil anything, in sort of a very weird direction that it goes. And so it's an interesting sort of contemplation on how we're not all the same, right? Not everyone is going to, if you only have 7 months to live, not everyone's going to go skydiving. Some people are going to fill that time in different ways. And this explores that, which I think it's neat. So Carol at the End of the World, I believe it's on Netflix and maybe HBO.
It was Netflix for sure.
Netflix.
I saw that. It looked like a really,
I would suggest
awesome
it.
Experience.
It is a very different type of show than that, but very well written and funny and interesting characters for sure.
All right. Well, if you want to come over here, we're going to get ourselves set up. We just got to figure out what game we're going to play. Thanks for sharing that one, Ryan. So back in the studio, welcome. This is the place that we hang out often. We're going to be playing a game tonight, so you got to let us know what you want. You want some Jackbox? Last time we did TKO. What are we going to play for tonight? That's a question.
I'm down for whatever.
He's down for whatever, Ryan says. So All right, let's take a look at. I feel like we should do some Drawful. It's been a minute since we did some Drawful.
Animate? Drawful animate?
Ooh, yeah, I will do Drawful. Is it like a? Is it in a pack? It's party pack 8, I believe. Yes, it is. We're doing Drawful animate. Get your phones out, folks. That means go to jackbox.tv. And we're gonna play. Did it? Are we frozen?
Time for Ryan to tell another rambling 15-minute story while Adam figures out his Xbox situation.
Oh no, it was the Xbox itself. Xbox has gone downhill, so you know how this is. Are you ready for this?
Wait, this is weapons drawn.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here, so let me back out of this. Okay. It's not being very nice to me right now. Maybe. I don't know. Weapons drawn. Is it a good one? Everyone's just looking at us right now, so we're in a good space right here. I'm gonna exit to pack. I just need a new computer, Ryan. If the damn RAM packs and stuff,
you're gonna have to build your own.
Trust me, I'm trying. I'm absolutely trying, sir.
What kind of ridiculous computer are you hoping? Like how much
for this
RAM?
room?
How much RAM are you looking at?
Just like 64. 64 gigabytes is still like $1,000.
You can't just buy like a Dell put together computer with 64 bits of RAM.
No, because I need a specialized card because I want to run local AI models.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be something that I
Good
like.
luck.
I have to do very specially.
You and everybody else, Adam.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to get this damn thing, but I'm going to do it at a discount. That's where we're at. All right, jump in and.
I'm in.
All right, who else is out there?
If you're not played Drawful Animate, it's great. You're going to be drawing 2 frames for every question, and then we're going to vote on it. Same as normal Drawful. You're just basically drawing double.
All right. What do we got in here? We got Becky, got Stealth Mouse. All right, I'm got to get myself in. You know what I want to do, Ryan? I would like to play one of those games that has the pick your own adventure with you. Even if we did it for like an hour, like there's got to be another one of those out there.
Right.
That we could play soon.
Totally.
If you didn't ever watch it, Ryan used to stream gaming.
Yeah.
It was good.
And it was good. And it was fun.
It was fun until it wasn't. Because he stopped.
Well, you know, life changes. Spending our time making YouTube shorts now.
That's right.
Just different.
Oh, crap. I forgot you can't erase. I did something very bad.
Uh-oh.
All right, screw it.
Yep. I don't know.
I love it.
Like a blobby guy. Adam's like, cool S just exploded. It's like a fatality.
It is.
Ooh, fatality. That would be a fun. That might be fun.
Wait, what would be fun?
Drawing a fatality in 2 frames.
It'd be really tough.
Would be.
Oh, that's a cute little stealth mouse there. Got a little bow on it. All right, we're just waiting for Becky on this.
Okay. What was that? All right, Becky, you got 10 seconds.
What happens if we push it? Does it just go?
I think it just selects it, right? Let's
We'll see.
German surf friends.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, got it.
Oh my gosh, hi. It's Drawful Animate, where you make mistakes and can't erase them. Kind of like life, huh? It's a 2-round game. Game on. Check your device for the title of your animation. It might be kind of hard to draw. Like
Yeah, it's
free
really hard.
chowder
Oh,
or
man.
don't touch that, Patty.
I wish you could change the
Your job
background
is
color.
to draw an animation that fits your prompt. You'll get points for each player that guesses your prompt correctly. You're smart, you got it.
These are terrible colors for this too.
Can't worry about the colors. You just
got
gotta,
to.
You just gotta do the
You
thing.
forget about them, and then you're like, oh right, that looks like P instead of whatever I wanted it to be.
You just can't
Don't
use
forget
the
you can
colors
still
to
join
do the thing.
audience by going to jackbox.tv and entering the room code.
This is a fun one. I mean, this is where you have to think about things sometimes a little deeper. Just gotta realize that you don't have an eraser. And that if you screw that up, you're screwed forever.
Just keep that in mind, everyone.
Oh, I did that. I screwed up.
Halfway through, time for frame 2.
Oh, I like how it gives you a little reminder here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna apologize right now. All right, let me see. I'm just going for it. This is not quite an animation, but I did best. Best efforts. Go team. As is classic, Ryan waits to the last second.
Of course.
He's doing his full artistic piece.
The
I wasn't
animations are
really
in.
trying to pressure
From
you.
the-
Oh, hey, I was done.
Let's
Good.
take a look.
Ooh.
Now you write what you think they were trying to draw, or what you think will trick the other players. Just a friendly reminder to submit a title.
All right, we'll see.
Oh man.
Voila. Which of these titles do you think inspired this drawing?
Man, there's some good ones in this one.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's go.
God. Okay.
I don't even know.
Nah, I don't-
I'm
I'm
screwed.
not double downing on this one at all.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. It can't. If it was dynamite, there would have been a fuse.
Ah, I know. I was hoping people wouldn't notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Good job. Good job. And it can't be a singing tube because the mouth isn't open.
I don't know. You're going a little bit much
You
into
know,
it. That was
it's
my.
like, that was the reason that I picked it up. Oh man.
Time to bang out a title.
I said I was sorry.
That's fun. It's a fun animation.
Your mom. That always wins.
Good.
Here are your choices.
I can't even vote on which one.
Yeah, that's what you don't get to like give award bonuses as the person who's
Vote,
Guessing.
vote. Ooh. Okay, who picked what?
Ah, you got somebody got somebody.
nice. I almost picked that one.
Yes, y'all got it almost.
Double down.
Double down.
Yeah, I knew it.
Cause he's like intense about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I could see the anxious. When I saw that one, I was like, oh no,
Ooh,
somebody's
yeah.
gonna peel one off of that one. Got into our psyche.
Write in your titles now. I know your fingers are tired, but I promise this is worth it. Type something.
It put that in, right? All right.
These are good ones.
Those are good.
Pick the real deal.
Yeesh.
Hide my pick from Adam.
Okay, who got tricked?
GD.
Hey, by me.
Good job. Good job.
Oh no.
Oh, this is it.
Is it?
Good job.
You needed that, Becky.
Yeah, that was good.
You racked in the points on it.
Literally being the bigger person. Oh, it's a race for first and second here. Neck and neck.
Ooh, I like this.
Time to type some titles.
This has got to be Ryan.
Yep. Faster. Just like speed it up fast.
I like that they have that, but it's also. I wish that you could like add another slider, like 3 frames. I still would be a little complex. Then it would be like.
You'd be able to do less, you know, because
You're
each
right.
game would take a lot
Right,
longer.
I do
Right.
like the
Little
2
heart out.
frame
the
animation.
two
It's
is
good.
like it's fun.
Just enough.
Yeah.
Just give me a racer.
Becky, get it in.
Oh, it was like last.
Well,
Oh.
and then Eye of the. Oh, wait, which one is it?
Ah!
Oh, that's great. Which variation on the same sentence?
I don't even know if I should double drop down on it.
Mm.
Okay, here's what happened.
Oh,
Yeah, I
crap.
feel like I'm getting screwed out of points because they're all so similar.
Yeah, suckers.
This sucks.
In the eyeball of the storm.
appreciate that.
You got somebody, but like eyeball.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did
Yeah.
best. It was clearly an eyeball, and you did. I almost did that one, but I was like, why would it
Okay,
put eyeball?
You know.
Good job. I
You
loved
know.
it.
Round two
Okay.
is the
All right,
same, but
here it
you're
is.
A couple minutes older. There's a new title on your device now.
I still got the same damn colors.
Yeah, me too. Sucky colors too.
The best sucky colors ever. I just don't even think about the colors. I'm just like, how can you use these? God, I just need to land the plane on this. How much time do I got? Oh,
We're
I have
halfway.
plenty of time.
Maybe tap on frame 2 and get to work.
Oh, my damn big finger. God. Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
Man, mine has some like subtleties to it that if I go in one direction, I was like, everyone's gonna know what to put.
Well, there is a way to erase. If you put a color over another color.
Yeah.
I needed to do that.
30 seconds left. If you haven't started the second frame yet, uh-oh.
Okay, I'm in. 4, 3.
The drawing
Okay.
is done.
I'm really
Get
sorry.
over it. Sam,
That'll be great.
I say that every time. I'm sorry.
Spawn.
It feels very
this one
sorrowful.
looks
Ooh,
like
I
a
like this
very,
one.
Very specific fear of mine.
Yeah, it does.
You don't have time to be perfect.
This is a good
Just
one.
do
Like
your
it.
best, or your
It's
worst.
it's like
I
it
really
could
don't
be a
care.
lot of different things, I feel like.
Yeah, it has some good action though in a couple different ways
Yeah.
too. Oh gosh, somebody had a.
Terrible titles matches that disaster of an animation.
Oh man.
Let's see what happened.
Nice. Good job.
Woohoo! Looks like an alien ship. It's Pavlov's poops, right?
I did Pavlov's poops, Adam.
And I double drop downed on it. Ah. Oh, I saw lightning instead of lighting. Oh, I would have picked that.
I did see lightning. I read lightning as well. Oh, man. You know, that's
Well,
tough.
I do. What do I lose if you double drop down? Do you like get?
Yeah, I
points
just don't
taken
think.
away?
No, I just don't think you get to use that again. Then, right? So
This
you're
animation is emotional for me.
okay.
There's a lot of work that went into this. I'm not sad about this one.
Yeah.
It's a me one.
No need to apologize for this.
No, this is high quality animation here. Next stop, Pixar Studios. Oh, fired. AI took over my job.
Type now. Replenish
Feedback is a
electrolytes
gift.
later.
Oh,
Like these inside
What a
jokes.
spread. Yum. Okay, time to vote. Alrighty, let's see what you did.
Thank you.
there's, there's some ears on there.
I know.
That snout was really hard.
the snout.
Because I did it once and it looked like a smiley face, and I was like, no.
You know what you needed? A moon.
Oh, that
Because
would've
that's
been
when werewolves
good.
come out, right? It's like
I
that
ran
would've
out of time.
added-
Remember, it was
Sure.
to 4
Yeah,
seconds,
that's
so
true.
it's true.
Okay.
Very good.
Go ahead, dash off a title. Type something in. Remember, one of these is
Yeah.
right.
these are
Oh,
good.
that's funny.
Should get vote on these.
Accuracy.
Yeah, actually, a couple
Never
are very,
Pick something.
Actually, almost every single one of these is very viable. Every single one of
Voted
them.
for what? Let's find out.
It was the classic from the show. Even tonight.
Yep. Yeah, I thought that was a little too
Like,
on the
too
nose.
perfect. Too perfect. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna draw like the battery or something, and I was like, people are gonna put low charge phone or something. I was like, I just have to make the screen black the entire time.
This is the last one.
Oh
Save
gosh.
Pull it together and
Sometimes
write
I almost
something.
wish you
I'm
could
talking to
know
you,
which
George Saunders.
frame
We
was
need
their
more
first frame. Like
Oh, yeah.
what did they draw first and then draw second?
Believe me when I say it's time to vote.
Oh man.
Oh gosh, it is hard.
of day to vote. Please vote now. Okay, I'm actually curious how this one turned out.
Thank you.
Oh, do not give him that.
Is this it? Ooh,
Oh.
nice. Stole one from Adam. Good one. Me and Becky. Simpatico.
Mumblebee.
Simpatico.
I almost picked Mumblebee.
Yeah.
I think Ryan took it with that.
Dang, I did. Woo! By like 500 points. Oh, I needed that.
You did.
I needed that. I went from like third. I was in third. And number one most liked.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You don't feed this guy's ego. He's gonna think he's some like drawing aficionado.
Some artist.
Oh my goodness.
That was fun. Fun.
I think it was a really good one. So Ryan, I loved tonight's show.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
What's next?
What's next? Do we want to listen to
Ooh, right.
a
Yeah. Okay.
song?
All right, let's do it.
All right, I have one more song for the evening.
mythical, forever, under wraps album.
So I might be going towards so I have the album done at this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm like in the mastering phase and I might be changing the voice. But I can keep like all of the songs locked in to where we're at. So tonight I'm going to give you a very specific song.
It's funny to think you'd be like, well, I went in to master it, and I just changed the person who is singing every single song because it's been a like character. That
It's been one, but I mean,
like
it's not going to be major. But I want to put my voice into it, so I went through it and I was thinking about it. I didn't want to like culturally appropriate some other like things, and so I really want to be mindful of how I approach this. So I did spend some time building it. And I have 2 songs. You can pick which one of the 2. Which one sounds interesting? 5 Quiet Minutes or The Pattern?
The Pattern.
Okay. So this is the AI song.
Yeah. Yeah, phone in the pocket, collecting the day. Words and locations just drifting away. Watch on the wrist, counting breath after breath. Car in the driveway, remembering steps. Nothing about it feels hostile or loud. Just quiet convenience, wrapped in the cloud. Little blue screens lighting up every hour. Teaching the system my rhythm empowered. Every small search leaves a trace in the sand. Every short message a mark on the land. Somewhere a server is chewing the grain. Life getting milled in the profit and gain. Something in the pattern, already know. Something in the system, watching the flow. We call it helpful, we call it ease. But every small habit is data it sees. Something in the pattern, already knows. Thumb on the screen, scroll never stops. Story on story, the tension just drops. Anger and laughter and outrage and grief, all of it flowing inside of the feed. Something out there feeling the pull. Which stories hooking, which silence feels dull. Little black lenses above every street. Faces becoming patterns to read. Nobody watching with human eyes, just quiet machines learning our lives. Billions of signals collected each day, teaching the system how people behave. Something in the pattern, already know. Something in the system, watching the flow. We call it helpful, we call it ease. But every small habit is data it sees. Something in the pattern, already know. Out in the desert, the buildings expand. Cold rows of servers replacing the sand. Cooling towers, drinking rivers at night. Turning the water to artificial sight. Power lines feeding the thought made a man. Draining the mind on the echo of past. Every idea, every song, every phrase. Browning the data, the power, the maze. Still we keep talking and typing away. Feeding the thing team that is learning our ways, but people ain't numbers that sit in a file. Mine takes a road that the math can't compile. Something in the feather, already know. Something in the system, watching the flow. We call it helpful, we call it ease, but every small habit is data is seed. Something in the pattern. Something in the pattern. Something in the pattern.
Nice.
There you go.
Great job. Great job.
Oh, we can't listen to that one. All right, so
Cool.
did you get the vibe on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wrote that after one of our talks.
I was gonna say if
was
it
our-
goes like perfectly
was-
with the topics of the show.
It was a surveillance one.
Yeah,
So I was like,
yeah.
man, there is something out there. So
Nice.
I think we've heard almost every one of the songs up to this point.
Yeah, how many is there in the
16.
end? 16.
So
So we haven't heard 16.
No, but yeah, that's true. Probably not on the show.
No.
But I'm really excited because what I've done and what I think I'm going to ask your help with is how do I release this album? And
right.
so what I've done, and it's a little excessive, I know like my kids and Heather have heard it a bazillion times, is like I plucked a song out and then I've reordered the songs like trying to tell a story and tell kind of like this thing, and I got it locked in now. And like it hits the right beats, and it says this like it tells the story that I want to tell. So it's pretty awesome.
Is the idea like I don't even know what goes into releasing like albums necessarily. Like I assume it's sort of a media, where you would be like, oh, let's put it in different places and take little snippets of it, and
I want to do some actual music videos for it.
Nice.
And then there's a distribution.
Oh, they shut down
thing.
Sora, so you can't do it.
I want to do like real ones.
Yeah,
Because everyone goes and like puts them out there, but you can then do some real videos, and then there's a thing that distributes across all the major platforms, every single one of them, and you're able to put them in there. You put all this data in there, and then you're able to like send it out. So
What
that's
is
plan.
do we know what the state of like AI created music in the sense of like does it have a fan base, just like that sort of genre of that?
It does.
Is it like I was trying to think of like on the visual design side of it, people obviously like look down on it more, right, when they know that it's
Sure.
that. Is that the same thing with music?
And that's why I wanted to do some stuff with my voice potentially.
Sure.
Is that if I put a little bit more human into it and a little bit,
Right.
because
Maybe
I've definitely
more-
spent probably way more time than I should. There's people that go in there like, I'm gonna make an album in an hour, and they chuck out a bunch of songs. But the amount of time and effort that I've gone into like listening to the song and then taking it out and like splitting into tracks and like remastering and like taking words and moving them out and then rewriting and then doing this has been intense.
Nice.
And so I'm really excited to be able to share it with everyone. It's like a whole journey. It's fun.
Yeah, I would, I think a lot of times don't they have sort of, like they would interview you, or you would put out videos about like things that you were thinking about when you created these types of these different songs.
People have said if you're honest and you just go out and say, hey, you know what? I could never have produced this.
Right.
And AI helped to get something that was inside me. Get it? AI used some of the parts. I'm not trying to step on other people that have talent, but I was able to do X, Y, and Z on this.
Yeah.
So this is what
Yeah,
I was able to release.
I think like you said, like being honest about, not trying to say that you
Right.
created all of this or did whatever. And then I think like I imagine it would sort of be in genres and be with people who listen to other AI music
and there's an audience, and
Yeah.
the one reason that I think that it could be appreciated is I heard my son singing one of the songs the other day,
Nice.
like not prompted or whatnot. He
Sure,
listened to it and he
right,
was doing
right.
the thing, and I was like,
Nice.
All right. It's got something. Thanks for like letting me do that, because it has been something that I appreciated along
passion
along
project
the
of
way, so.
Adam's we've been getting to follow along with. It's great.
Yeah, I love that I can share it on the show and
Yeah.
you get to see all these pieces. So
Totally.
in any case, thanks for hanging out. I love
Yes.
the topic on boredom. I don't know what's
Totally.
up next for
We'll
the
see.
next
We'll see
round.
what's next up? Who
I know.
knows?
It's going to be a busy couple months. I think the next, I can't if it's the next one or the one after, where I'm going to be like driving from Fort Collins right into the show.
Man.
So
well, we need a few of those a year to keep you on your toes.
No, we do not. We do not. All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night. We'll
Good
see
night,
ya.
everybody.